All right, good evening, everyone, again. Good evening, good evening. Ronald McFadden, and I happen to serve as the board chair, and I would like to welcome you all to the April 9th public board meeting of the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners. If you have not done so yet, please mute your phone if you are virtual or in the room. Anyone who does not mute their phone may be muted by the call moderator or removed from the call or asked to step out. Additionally, if you are not a board member or the CEO or her staff, please turn your video off. I will now read a roll call of the board to identify who is present. Vice Chair Roberts.
Vice Chair Roberts present.
Thank you. Commissioner Coy.
Commissioner Coy present.
Thank you. Commissioner Esposito. Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. Thank you. Commissioner Lawson.
Commissioner Lawson present.
Thank you. Commissioner Muhammad. Commissioner Reed.
Commissioner Reed present.
Commissioner Sally.
Commissioner Sally present.
Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Commissioner Slater Harrington present.
Thank you. I'm also present. That is 7 members present with 3 absent. Is there a motion to reopen the meeting?
So moved.
Eight present with 2 absent for the record. Thank you. I wrote 6 twice. Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington, for moving the reopening of the meeting. Is there a second?
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Bay. All in favor, Vice Chair Roberts.
Yes.
Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
Commissioner Reed.
Yes.
Commissioner Sally.
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Yes.
I'm also in favor. That motion passes unanimously. Please join me in standing as we receive the presentation of colors from the Benjamin Franklin High School Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps.
Left turn, march. Color guard, hope. Preset, off. Benjamin Franklin High School requesting permission to post the colors.
Permission granted.
Thank you, sir. Order, on. Colors reverse, march. Color guard, hope. Preset, on. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Order, on. Post the colors.
Ready, cut.
Please be seated. Thank you to Cadet Sergeant First Class Alvin Garrison. Cadet Private First Class Jemiah Garrison. Cadet Private First Class Deanna Reyes. Cadet First Class Lieutenant Donovan Rogers. And Cadet Captain Steve Davis. Is there a motion to approve the prior open session minutes? Thank you, Commissioner Reed. Is there a second?
Second Lawson.
Thank you, Commissioner Lawson. All in favor, Vice Chair Roberts. Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Commissioner Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sally,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington. I'm also in favor. That motion passes unanimously with the members who are present. Is there a motion to approve the closed session summaries?
So move, Reed.
Thank you, Commissioner Reed. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Reed, seconded by Vice Chair Roberts. All in favor, Vice Chair Roberts, Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sally,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Yes.
I'm also in favor. That motion passes unanimously with the members who are present. So welcome again, everyone, to the April 9th board meeting of the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners. It's nice to see you all. We're also celebrating a few students, so it's nice to see you all and your families tonight. However, we're starting our meeting with a bit somber remark as we are shaken all after the tragic events surrounding the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Our hearts weigh heavy with sorrow and concern for all of those affected by this devastating incident. No words can ease the pain of such profound loss. But please know that folks are not alone. You all are not alone. The entire city stands with all of the families that have been impacted in solidarity, offering our support, our comfort, and strength. From the Board of School Commissioners and the entire school system, we send our thoughts and prayers to the families and loved ones of those who we have lost in their lives or have been injured in the tragedy. In memory of the victims, please join me in a moment of silence, and may their names be remembered, their lives be cherished, and their memories honored. Thank you. As our students, families, and staff process this traumatic event, I encourage you all to engage in art making as a therapeutic support and a way to also document history. Mental health resources from the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, the JHO, Central Soul, Pro Bono Counseling, Warm Line, and the Intercultural Counseling Connection may also provide additional support and guidance. There are folks that are interested in additional supports during this time. Please reach out directly to your schools or to central office so that we can partner with you all. Details on these resources and more are in the news section on the City Schools website. On a brighter note, I want to congratulate Commissioner Slater Harrington, who was recently named one of the Daily Record's top 100 women of Maryland. This honor recognizes 100 of Maryland's high-achieving women who are making, I think you joined the ranks of a few of those women who are in the room with you tonight, who are making an impact through their leadership, community service, and mentoring. I am personally elated for Commissioner Slater Harrington. Her dedication to social justice, education, and community engagement is evident in the work that she does on the board and throughout the community, the greater community of Baltimore. Next, the board is hitting the road and coming to a school near you. We're heading east for our next board meeting. So on April 23rd at 5:30 p.m., the board will host its first, I wanted to say, off-site public board meeting at Reach Partnership School. It's a high school in East Baltimore. Many of you may know that school as the former Lake Clifton, but now it is the Reach Partnership School off of Harford Road. That's where we will be at our April 23rd board meeting at 5:30. Listen in on various topics such as curriculum updates, budget allocation, staff advancement, and more. Public comment is encouraged, and we're hoping that you sign up between 4:15 and 5:15 on the day of that meeting. You may also watch the board in real time as the board works to improve educational outcomes for our city. To see the April 23rd meeting agenda, to learn how to submit public comment, and more, please visit the board meetings webpage on the City Schools website. Finally, I want to focus the remainder of my time on our exceptional Baltimore City Public Schools Scholar Superstars. Can we just give a round of applause to our students? Last time, we honored two extraordinary students, one from Arundel Elementary School and the other from ACE, the Academy for College and Career Exploration. You can learn more about them on the City Schools Scholar Superstar webpage. This month, we have two new, very special awardees from two different schools. First, we have Mike Correll. Is Mike Correll with us? Stand up, just let us see who you are. The vice chair is commenting on your nice drip on your arm, that fancy arm. You look nice tonight. Mike Correll, Amira, did I pronounce that correctly? Amira. And I'm looking at I'm looking at your first name, I'm thinking it's the last name. So Mike Correll Kuwavi. Did I pronounce that correctly? Okay, there's Mike Correll again. And then let's start with him first. So Mike Correll is an outstanding leader and advocate, as evidenced by winning the MSDE, that's the Maryland State Department of Education Award, being a two-time Grand Contour winner, and receiving the President's Award 5 times. He is admired by his peers on the VEX IQ robotics team and remains confident and consistent despite challenges that are thrown at him. Outside of academics, Mike Correll is respectful, that's important, and eager to help, that's important. During a recent class trip to China, look at our students. On a recent class trip to China for spring break, he worked hard to integrate into the Chinese cultural environment. He even helps to prepare the school's weekly announcements video each Sunday. It is now my pleasure, the board's pleasure, to invite Mike Correll, his family, and our BIA staff, he is from Baltimore International Academy, to join us right here up front as we present the Scholar Superstar Award. So can you all come right here in the front? Board members, please join us in the front. So board colleagues, can we just join me in front of the table here? Turn around, yep. Yes. We need one. Yeah, we have something. Yes. Correll, this is for you. Michael, we want to hear from you, so I'm gonna walk and talk while you come right there. Michael, you can sit right there at that mic. All right. Let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind just sharing. Um, what does this mean to you? And anything else you want to share with us tonight? So just press that. Yeah, perfect.
Um, Getting this award means like a lot to me. It's like it came in at surprise because like I just came back from China and it was my birthday season. So when thank you. So when I came back to school on Tuesday, a lot of people were congratulating me and I didn't know what exactly happened. So it was the day after that they broke the news to me that I won the Super Scholar. I didn't know how to react, but it feels good.
We're very proud of you.
Thank you.
We're very proud of who you are to our city. And one of the reasons why we're doing this, Michael, and to all of our students that we've celebrated is because we're very committed to telling our own story. And we say this often, but there are moments, right, when the media decides to show up, for other reasons. This is what we want them to showcase, right? We want them to showcase our brilliance, the beauty that lives right here in each and every one of you, and we're very proud of you. So last thing, what do you enjoy most about school? Or your school, because you're at a special school.
Yeah.
So what do you enjoy most about BIA?
What I enjoy most about BIA is mostly like the program that they have. Like they have 5 different languages that you can choose. I'm doing French, but they also have Spanish, Arabic, Russian, and Chinese. And as a middle school student, you also take like a foreign language, which is Chinese. I also take Chinese, and I also love the teachers that work there. Like Mr. Mukari, he has been there ever since I came at BIA, and he kind of really helped me a lot through my journey.
Nice. What was your favorite thing to eat while you were in China?
Um, it'll probably be something like egg fried rice with
Okay.
chicken.
Okay. All right.
It was really good.
Nice. Well, we're very proud of you. We know that you're going to go far. We know that you are going to continue to make our city proud. We're proud of you now. So let's give Michael another hand of applause. Thank you. Next, we have Amira Hargis. I got that right, didn't I? Amira. Where's Amira? Amira, let's see who you are. Amira, stand up and show us who you are. And so, Amira, if you don't mind standing or sitting here just for a moment, because the camera will probably be better able to pan into you while we're chatting. Perfect. Or you can take a seat, or you can stand. It's up to you. But Amira is an exceptional 12th grader at the Baltimore Leadership School for Young Women in Central Baltimore. Amira is talented, you all. Amira is the dance captain for Bliss, the Bliss Elite Dance Team, and the assistant choreographer for the junior varsity dance team. That's a big deal. Through her role, she demonstrates remarkable skill and artistry, guiding and inspiring her teammates to reach new heights of excellence. Outside of dance, Amira is a trailblazer and advocate for her peers. She created a mental health club called Navigation, or NAV, or is it NAV? It's NAV, which is a support group for students to balance out their mental health and ways to cope with different teen issues through peer-to-peer mentorship. She does all of this while maintaining a 3.5 GPA. Yeah. So while you're there, share a little bit about what this means to you. And then the same question I asked, what do you enjoy most about Bliss? Because we heard a little bit about how you're trailblazing in that school and in the community, but what do you enjoy most about the school? So those two things.
Um, to me, this means that all my hard work paid off, which makes me feel really good. But I will also say my favorite thing about Bliss is dance and sisterhood. Um, Dance has helped me cope with a lot of things. It's helped me express myself. And from my school, I've gained a lot of relationships that I will take with me along my journey in life. And I'm just thankful for it.
Very nice. Is there anyone that you would like to, anyone with you tonight? Is there anyone you want to acknowledge?
Hello? Okay. I want to acknowledge everyone that came to support me, my parents, my dance coach, and my principal.
All right, Amir, here's the money question, right? I try to get it out of our student commissioner, but he's not giving it up to me just yet. But everyone probably knows what this is going to be. What are we doing after graduation? Just make sure it's green. Yep.
Okay, there we go. So after graduation, I'm going to college. I have yet decided, but I know I'm going to major in psychology, possibly minor in dance. And I want to come back to my school and help with the dance team for
That's
sure.
incredible. That's beautiful. The board was actually just talking about some of that in a discussion. And so we're really happy to hear that you are our, not just today, but you're the future of this system. And it's so great to hear that you want to give back, but that you're such a believer in mental health, collaboration, and community development. That's what I'm hearing from you. And we can't wait. There's a job waiting for you once you finish college. We will welcome you back with open arms. So we're going to ask your family to come up and join the board, your principal, your dance coach, your whole team, so that we can document this in history. So when you come back, we can say that was Amira. Let's get both of our scholars. Board acknowledges a donation of $50,000 from the Baltimore Ravens to Baltimore City Schools to implement a female flag football program. The board acknowledges a donation of $46,000 from the Baltimore City Office of Sustainability to the Great Kids Farm to support student green teams, environment clubs at 29 schools. So let's give it up for those donors. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve?
Thank you. Your motion to.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve item 3.01, item 3.03, and item 3.04?
So move, Reed.
Thank you, Commissioner Reed. Is there a second? Thank you, Vice Chair. All in favor? Vice Chair Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sally,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Yes.
I am also in favor. That motion passes unanimously with the members who are present. Is there a motion to approve item 3.02?
So move, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Reed. All in favor, Vice Chair Roberts.
Chair McFadden, I'll be abstaining from this.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed, Commissioner Sally,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington. I'm also in favor. That motion passes with 6 in favor and 1 abstention.
Chair McFadden, I'd like to take a personal moment of privilege to congratulate my principal of the amazing Hartford Heights Elementary Middle School. Congratulations, Principal Woodland.
You must be doing a nice job over there in Hartford Heights. Yes. But we're excited to have you permanently in that school. And we will now turn it over to Dr. Sonia Santelises for CEO comments.
Thank you very much, Chair McFadden. And it is my pleasure. That was a wonderful introduction, Madam Vice Chair. I am now pleased to turn it over to Chief Emily Nielsen for this evening's PEP agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Santelises, and good evening to the Board of Commissioners. I know we have a number of our PEPT staff members here tonight, so when I read your name, please feel free to stand up so that we can acknowledge you. And on our PEP today, from the Office of the Chief Academic Officer, an appointment recommended that Kivietta McCants, currently Educational Associate 10 months at Excel Academy, be appointed Coordinator Professional Development Academics effective April 10th, 2024. Recommended that Susanna Wesch, currently Coordinator School Counseling Pupil Services, be appointed Interim Director Post-Secondary Success effective April 10th, 2024 to June 30th, 2024. From the Office of the Chief Operations Officer, recommended that Joanna Pisanier, currently Manager Sustainability, be appointed Interim Director Strategy and Compliance in the Office of the COO, effective April 10th, 2024 to June 30th, 2024. And now from the Office of the Chief of Schools, recommended that Linda Davis, currently IEP Chair at Glenmount Elementary Middle, be appointed Assistant Principal at Baybrook Elementary Middle, effective July 1st, 2024. Recommended that Coral Beth Garcia, currently Interim Principal at Lakeland Elementary Middle, be appointed Principal. That's effective tomorrow, April 10th. Congratulations. Recommended that Kayla Mack, currently Educational Associate. And Kayla Mack will be Assistant Principal at Billie Holiday Elementary School, effective July 1st, 2024. Recommended that William Mueller, currently Educational Associate 10 months at ACE, be appointed Assistant Principal at ACE, effective July 1st, 2024. Recommended that Tanara Pitts, currently Interim Principal at Francis Scott Key Elementary Middle School, be appointed Principal at the channel. Recommended that Aaron Ruiz, currently Math Coach at Armistead Garden Elementary Middle, be appointed Assistant Principal at Armistead Gardens Elementary Middle, effective July 1st, 2024. And then on the CEO notification, Office of the Chief of Schools, reassignment, Lawrence Ashworth II, currently Assistant Principal at Calvin M. Rodwell Elementary Middle School, be reassigned Assistant Principal at Baybrook Elementary Middle School, effective July 1st, 2024. Kyle Gatchalian, currently Educational Specialist 2 Strategy, Special Education and Student Support Services, be reassigned Educational Specialist 2 Professional Learning Compliance Investigations, effective April 10th, 2024. Jamie Neal, currently Assistant Principal at ACE, be reassigned Assistant Principal at Franklin Square Elementary Middle, effective July 1st, 2024. Kimberly Felton Pittman, currently Assistant Principal at Bluford Drew Jemison, be reassigned Assistant Principal at Harlem Park Elementary Middle, effective July 1st, 2024. Stanley Wolf, currently Coordinator College Career Readiness, be appointed Acting Director Career Readiness, effective April 10th, 2024 to June 30th, 2024. And we separated this into an addendum. Office of the Chief of Schools, an appointment recommended that Carnell Woodland, currently interim principal at Harford Heights Elementary Middle, be appointed principal at Congratulations again, Mr. Woodland, and that is tonight's PEP. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chief Nielsen, and I am loving the schools a la Lakeland et al. Cheering section. I will say we normally take time out to highlight our principals who are appointed this evening. And one thing that I can say is I have visited all 3 of these interim leaders during their interim tenure at their current schools, and it was with great pleasure to be able to hear each of them appointed as full principals, full school leaders. I think it is a testament to the fact that each and every one of them, when I asked them what they saw their job as being in this next phase of their role at their schools, none of them said just maintain. All of them said to go from good to great. And I think it is indicative of the 3 leaders that we have appointed, that the board has appointed this evening. So now Principal Carnell Perry Woodland joined City Schools in 2009, serving as an intermediate elementary school teacher, instructional lead, math coach, and assistant principal. He states, quote, "There is greatness in every child, and it is our job as educators to help children show the world their greatness." Mr. Woodland holds a Bachelor of Science degree from Frostburg State University and a master's in administration and supervision from Notre Dame of Maryland. Congratulations, Principal Woodland. Principal Coral Beth Garcia has served the students and families in Baltimore City schools for the last 18 years. That's right. She has been a teacher, mentor, and instructional coach, and has spent the last 8 years serving as assistant principal at Lakeland Elementary Middle School. Ms. Garcia holds a Bachelor of Science and Master's from Towson State University. She is the proud mother of 2 incredibly smart, gorgeous little boys who attend Lakeland Elementary Middle School, and I'm sure there's one that did not appreciate that descriptor. But congratulations, Principal Garcia. And then finally, Principal Tanera Pitts served as interim principal at Francis Scott Key Elementary Middle School. She's a proud alumna of Western High School, and Ms. Pitts, that's right, has served as assistant principal at Francis Scott Key and Johnston Square Elementary, and, oh, there it is, and as resident principal at North Bend Elementary School and Mary Ann Winterling School. She holds a bachelor's and master's degree from Towson University and is an alumna of the New Leaders Program. Congratulations, Principal Pitt. Very good. So at our last board meeting, several members of our Islamic community here in Baltimore City shared their request that Eid al Fitr and Eid al-Adha be acknowledged by closing schools for the observance days. That engagement was valuable. We have previously heard from other communities of faith regarding concerns about the calendar and its impact on religious observances. While we strive to support the broader needs of our students, staff, families, and communities, it's important to bear in mind that our primary focus is on maximizing time for student learning, meeting state requirements, and meeting instructional and professional learning needs. Thanks to the outstanding responsive work done by staff in the academic office, especially Dr. Rachel Pfeiffer and Simon Birnbaum. It's my pleasure to ask them to come forward this evening for a quick review. Oh, Dr. Pfeiffer, oh, both, great. To ask both of them to come forward to give us a quick update in advance of the board's vote this evening.
Good evening. Give me one moment. I'm just going to pull up a few slides. Thank you so much. Again, I'm Rachel Pfeiffer, Executive Director of Academics, joined here by my colleague, Simon.
Good evening. I'm Simon Birnbaum, Director of Grading, Assessment, and Scheduling.
Thank you so much, Dr. Santelises, for the time. Board, good to see you. Good evening. In response to the concerns that were raised at the last board meeting, we did conduct a review of the calendars in many surrounding districts, and we took particular care to look at the school closures on religious observance days. In some cases, these were closures specifically aligned with religious observance days. In some cases, it was professional learning that may have been scheduled on one of those days. We wanted to be responsive, and so we put forward several alternative calendar options. And we did so in light of the multiple faiths and religious beliefs that make up the members of the city, or that are held by the members of the city's schools community. We also recognized that there was some feedback that we received this year about the implementation of our religious observance guidance and our desire to recognize and accommodate those who were participating in various religious practices. And so several of our spring athletic competitions, we shifted so that they would finish prior to 6 p.m. So that students who are observant and wanted to practice their faith by observing a particular holiday would be able to also participate in these athletic competitions. Ultimately, this final 2024-2025 calendar does not propose additional school day closures for observance days, but in the process of doing so, we really have reinforced our commitment to ensuring that we accommodate and consider those who are practicing their faith on these days. We will engage as we continue to develop future calendars. We will engage our city schools community members. We want to continue to hear the various voices that make up our community to understand how they are experiencing these observance days, and this information will inform how we build our 2025-2026 calendar.
So I want to thank you both for that update. I also want to thank Chair McFadden for the leadership at the last board meeting and making sure that every member of our community is heard, and for both of you for taking that up in earnest. and being able to come here and report to the community, our larger community, and to the board what that follow-up was. So thank you to both of you. And with that, I also want to just make a continuing on, I am pleased to report that the improvement in our four-year graduation rate for Baltimore City Public Schools outpaced the state of Maryland for the class of 2023 overall and for several student groups. Yes, give a shout out. That's a lot of work from a lot of people. Overall,
Hold on,
Oh.
Dr. Santelices.
Sorry, sir.
You said we outpace the state
Yes, we outpaced the state in growth,
in growth.
Growth.
That means our graduation rate increased.
Yes,
Okay, and it increased, it kind of, a little bit more than other jurisdictions in our state.
sure. So the overall state declined and we increased, so we
Oh.
narrowed the gap. So,
Just wanted to make sure that was on the record again.
thank you, Mr. Chair. And we really are proud of that. Again, we increased as a district by 1.9 percentage points. Again, while the rest of the state decreased. I also want to add that we know that we are not satisfied with where we are, and we still have a ways to go because we believe every young person deserves the right to graduate with a robust curriculum and being able to choose their own future and know that they're prepared for that. But we are on the upswing, and I want to thank all of the folks at the school level, the district level, who helped make that possible, as well as the students and families themselves. And so at this time, I would like to invite Chief Achievement and Accountability Officer, Teresa Jones, Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Joan Dabrowski, and Interim Chief of Schools, Dr. Stacy Place-Tozay, to discuss these results in more detail.
Thank you so much, Dr. Santelices, and good evening to the members of the school board and members of the public that are assembled. My name is Teresa Jones, and I serve the district as the Chief Achievement and Accountability Officer. I also, of course, have my colleagues here as well. I'm going to allow them to go ahead and introduce themselves, and then we'll dive right in.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Joan Dabrowski, Chief Academic Officer.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Stacy Place-Tozay, Interim Chief of Schools.
Great, thank you both. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so first, just a quick word about graduation rate cohorts. You will also sometimes hear us refer to these as the adjusted cohort. So I just wanted to make note that the Maryland State Department of Education began using an adjusted cohort rate methodology back in 2010 to be compliant with ESEA. And as a result of that, what that does is it gives us a sense of how many students are actually graduating, having met the state's requirements around graduation, relative to the time period that we're measuring, whether that's a four-year graduation rate or a five-year graduation rate. The adjustments primarily take into consideration transfers in and transfers out, but there are some specific codes that factor into that. So we won't get into those details this evening, but the key point here is that it is adjusted so that we get a sense around how many of our students are actually on track for graduation, and our state reporting allows us to be able to monitor that activity over the course of the 4 years. Next slide, please. So as Dr. Santelices noted, we are proud to announce that we did see an increase in the graduation rate to the tune of 1.9 percentage points. That takes us above 70% to the tune of 70.6%. Wanted to note, graduation rates are not easy to move. I think, you've heard us say time and time again, while, every fraction of a point matters, for us to be close to 2 percentage points in an increase, that is noteworthy improvement, coupled with the fact that we not only increased at that rate, but that the state overall experienced a decrease to the tune of 0.5 percentage points. Also, want to note, when it comes to the five-year graduation rates, there were declines for both city schools and the state, but they were comparable. They were both declined at a rate of 0.8 percentage points. Now, another quick note before we leave the slide, just to contextualize what that means that we have 3,736 young people that graduated with a diploma from Baltimore City Public Schools in 2023, and that's 125 more graduates than we saw in 2022. Next slide, please. So let's take a look at what we can tell us about some of our student groups. So as noted, that 2 percentage point increase seems to be a reigning theme here. So you'll see our Black or African American students increased by 2.5 percentage points, Hispanic and Latinx students by 2 percentage points. And then we also see students with disabilities at 2.3 and multilingual learners at 2.2. However, there are a couple of important notes about these results. Number one, we do acknowledge that we do have some pretty low rates in terms of the performance of these student groups. And so we still continue to push towards increasing those rates. That is an important priority for us as a district. I'll also note that there are some different dynamics, as you'll see, as we compare our results with the state. So for example, for our Black and African American students, we increased 2.5 points. The state increased 0.8. When we take a look at Hispanic or Latinx students, we increased 2 points, but guess what? The state declined at 0.9 points. When we take a look at students with disabilities, there are increases in both, but ours are 2.3 percentage points versus the state at 0.2 points. And then when we take a look at multilingual learners, we're seeing, again, City Schools has an increase of 2.2 percentage points and a decrease of 0.8 percentage points. So this gives us a sense of that accelerated rate of improvement that we're seeing, but certainly not to negate the fact that there's still a lot of really important work to do to get more and more of our students across the finish line. Next slide, please. So here we want to take a look at some key trends. And so let me orient you first and foremost to the information on the slide. So the orange lines that you see at the top, those are the lines that depict the state's graduation rate alongside City Schools. So again, you'll see those numbers we just discussed, the 0.5 decrease for the state with the increase of 1.9 for City Schools. One thing that you'll be able to see if you take a look at the trend line is that we're showing an uptick. So we're sort of reversing that downward trend that you see if you start looking at 2019 going through to 2023. The bottom line, however, shows dropout. And so again, City Schools versus the state. And in this case, we actually had a greater increase in our dropout rate than the state did. So that's represented here with the 1.5 percentage points versus the 1.3. And so one of the things my colleagues will do is we will talk about some of the insights we have around the information that you're seeing here, as well as how it impacts the work that we're doing as we continue to support our young people to get them through the graduation experience. Next slide, please. And then last but not least, on the data front, we also just wanted to put before you the data I shared earlier. So you can see that 5-year graduation rate change. And so you'll kind of see there was more or less a little bit more of a flatness as it relates to that. But you do see that there was a comparable decline for City Schools and the state for the 5-year graduation cohort. So with that overview of the results, looking at how we did versus the state, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Joan Dabrowski, to talk a bit about the key actions.
Thank you so much. So I want to start by noting that the students represented in this data, in this graduation cohort, were 9th graders in March 2020. So those children were 14 and 15 years old and experienced the onset of the COVID pandemic. And so when we think back to what they experienced in their 9th grade year, followed by a 10th grade year, where most, if not all, experienced a full year of virtual learning, and then who returned to in-person learning at their 11th grade year, facing waves of COVID variants, if we all remember Delta and Omicron, as well as very restrictive quarantine and isolation rules. So the year for them as 11th graders was far from normal. As 12th graders, many of the students would describe sort of this new normal or a beginning to feel of a new normal. So when we think about the young people represented in this data and what they navigated during a 4-year period of time, we do need to celebrate and affirm the 70.6% of young people who found their way through and stayed on track despite incredible challenges. We know that Many of our young people needed to take on additional responsibilities at home or outside of the home during this time period. So again, I want to just lift that up as a way of setting some context, and then also now think forward to how we will do the important work of increasing our graduation numbers. We are not satisfied with that 70.6%. And we have put together a series of strategies that we have shared with the board before, but seem particularly relevant tonight as we note both where we are and where we plan to go forward. So for the students who are represented in this data, credit recovery was a key reopening strategy. We spent a lot of time very early on becoming aware that if we could provide more opportunities for them to earn and recover credits, that would help get more students on track. And so again, using the ESSER dollars, there was increased opportunities that landed at schools. We also expanded summer opportunities for credit recovery. We went from having 1 session to 2 sessions in our summers. That first summer that we came back, we thought a lot about how we could offer Saturday credit recovery as district-wide programming so students could access, again, a course that might not be available at their local site. And we tried to get more early access, more early opportunities for students. And we do believe that those efforts have paid off both in these numbers, and we're seeing those results in current numbers as we're looking forward. So if we go to the next slide, the additional actions that I want to lift up, our current data that we're seeing and talking about tonight may not have been able to sort of reap the benefits, but this is the work that we have invested in, and we expect that we will see these benefits coming to us as we look at future cohorts. So our On Track to Graduate, our intentional laser focus on grade 9 has been an investment that we have made and has been in place for a while, but we've done some expanded efforts so that now all of our schools are being able to benefit from this vigilance of 9th grade, because we know if we monitor attendance and course performance in that early beginning of high school, those students are more aligned and on track to be ready for on-time graduation. So again, we have hired at the school level 23 on track to graduate coordinators. We have a centralized coordinator who's helping those efforts. We are seeing more of our 9th graders on track than we have in previous years. And again, we're making sure that those coordinators receive targeted guidance on how best to identify what it is that a 9th grader may need to stay on track. If we go to the next slide, another key action that we've been taking is to make sure that all students have an opportunity to sit with a post-secondary advisor or a career coach to really set forward a graduation plan so that we know and they know what they need to do in order to be on track, what classes they need to take, what credits they need to earn. And we're expanding our work to support that mentoring that is so critical for our young people. So again, all of these things where our sort of investments are paying forward, these are the things that we're hopeful are going to change those graduation numbers. If we go to the next slide, we know that we have a diverse group of learners, and we're particularly mindful of our students with disabilities, our multilingual learners, our opportunities to re-engage students. So again, across our offices, we think about what are the additional staffing needs that we need to ensure that our students with disabilities are thinking about the important job opportunities and transitions. We think about how our multilingual learners who may come to us later in their educational journey and who may be overage but undercredited. So in that unique profile of a learner, we have to be very quick and rapid in our response to support them and finding ways to help get them on track, knowing that they are coming to us already with needs that are, again, where they're not having enough credits and they're at an age where that's going to hold them back. So again, we're doing some really strategic staffing to ensure these vulnerable populations are getting the supports they need to get them on track to graduate. And then if we go to the next slide, our work around CTE. So we continue to think through our strategic plan so that we can ensure that there are 9,000 CTE seats available, again, with those occupations being aligned to a living wage. So this is work that is ongoing for us, and it's work that is forward thinking. And I think we're ready for the next slide, where I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Toze.
Thank you. So some additional strategies that we are looking at in our efforts to decrease truancy is maintaining communication with families who have been referred to truancy court to be certain that families are not only receiving a clear understanding of the law, but are also being connected to resources and supports. And this communication will continue into the summer. Additionally, we are looking at collaborating with the state's attorney's office to strategize around logistics of addressing the increase in truancy court referrals and to create a more restorative approach that is helpful and supportive of families. In terms of chronic absenteeism, we have been working across offices to review district-wide data continuously to monitor progress towards our goal of 36% chronic absentee rate by school year 26-27. And I would like to report that we are currently on track. As of February, we are at 43.3%. This time last year, we were at 52.3%. So that is super exciting. Right. Some additional things that we have, increased staffing to provide direct support to schools with high chronic absentee rates on site with continued scheduled support. This year we have 4 positions. Next year we're moving to 6 positions and moving from supporting 60 schools to over 90 schools for next year. We're mobilizing schools to implement our 60-day attendance challenge, during which time schools are going to be able to dig deeper into their attendance data to identify students who are at risk for being chronically absent. We are recommending to schools to hire a summer attendance liaison for 12 months to make sure that they begin the support now prior to the beginning of the year. We're also collaborating with the mayor's office to create a city-wide attendance campaign. And also we have some additional support such as office hours for school leaders and attendance team support. And we also have a bank of best practices and research-based interventions that school leaders and attendance teams can reference. Looking at our student wellness and support teams, we want to make sure, again, that we're collaborating with all of the support that we do have. So we're looking at making sure that our school social workers, our nurses, counselors, wholeness specialists, and school behavioral health clinicians are a part of the process when we're looking at each student individually to make sure they are getting the needs that their individual needs met. And lastly, our engagement through extracurricular opportunities. We have spent and put a lot of effort into expanding our extracurricular options for middle school and high school. And we are hoping that these are some of the things that will get our students to come into school. So these are some things, again, what we're doing in collaboration with office, all of the offices in central office, and we are seeing the fruits of our labor pay off. And I think that is the last slide.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all, and for your presentation, your leadership. And again, I want to thank the entire City Schools team, and I appreciated pointing out that this data is actually from a group of young people who had 3 of their 4 years of high school seriously disrupted. And a lot of the supports that we just heard about across the district are, I think we're going to continue to see over the years reap benefits. I want to thank everyone at the school office and just say, both as the CEO and as the mother of a 9th grader who has benefited from the focus on 9th grade, given her little bump in the road with her freshman math class, but she is back on track. And a lot of that, I will tell you, like I said, I experienced as a mom. I went in and the On Track to Graduate coordinator was part of the team that met, and I am proud to say, I guess I shouldn't call her name out, but that we went from a danger zone in math to a solid B, and I'll take it. But it just goes to prove, like I said, both not only as education leader, but as a mother, that our investments in our young people at the high school level are paying off. So thank you all. Thanks to the entire city schools community. We have a ways to go, but we're going to keep going. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Reed. We now have questions. Ladies, you stay right there.
Sorry, I'm back. I guess my question is, you can tell me if I'm wet. The Hispanic community is the fastest growing community in terms of participation in the system. The graduation rates for 4 years is like around 55%. Is there a shelf life in terms of, because of family needs, because of family requirements, where you see like a cliff for the students in the Hispanic community? In terms of why that number is 50%? That's my first question. And my second, are there any unique mitigations because of that 55% in the nature of the community?
So yeah, so you're exactly right. So in terms of the group that's sort of helping to keep stabilizing our enrollment, it really pretty much has been, our multilingual learners primarily within the Hispanic or Latinx population. Some of this, what you're seeing, is a dynamic that has to do with when they actually enter our school system. What is the age? How much schooling have they had? And our ability to make sure that they're continuing to be on track based on the expectations at that specific grade. So I'm sure, Dr. Dabrowski can speak to some of the adjustments that we have made over the last several years, especially thinking about at the high school level, when we have students that are coming in that may not have had formal schooling experiences and the additional supports that they need. So that is one consideration. The other thing that I would lift up, and this goes back to some of the characteristics of this specific cohort and some of what we've learned about this particular community. So when we think about it in terms of families and how young people sometimes help support their families with the earnings that they are able to have, that has contributed to some extent with what we tend to see in terms of dropout activity, particularly for this particular population. And it also can sometimes influence how do we ensure that they have the supports that they need so that they can also care, in some cases, for larger families, because that's another characteristic that we tend to see. So again, I'd be careful to characterize that as this is, just a broad stroke, because it does not characterize every single family and every single student, but it is an acknowledgement that there are some unique factors that we try to stay really close to in the work that we're doing to understand individual student need and understanding the family circumstances to be able to try to engage and keep families on track.
Yep, and I'll just add, so as Chief Jones mentioned, it is critical, sort of the pieces, we look at different aspects of the data when a student enters our system and what level of language proficiency they bring when they join us. And so part of the work that we know is when the students come to us younger and earlier and go through our English language development support, we see that benefit pay off, and we see that proficiency and that on track to graduate increase. When students come to us later in time, that the timeline shrinks for how quickly we want to be able to get that English language development secure. So what we're doing is, number one, we're looking at offering expanded options in the summer to get that English language development coupled with some of the credits they need in high school. Because what we know is those students need to both learn English rapidly along with earning high school credits. So we try to pair this ELD, this English language development, right alongside the credit-bearing courses. So there is some very strategic scheduling that has to occur. And that's where, again, we are increasing the coaches who are out supporting, particularly in our high multilingual communities, our high numbers so strategic staffing, so that we can be ready to support those learners in the unique challenges that we want to be able to do. Again, how we want to adjust their schedule, make sure they're getting those required courses. We also want to work with our community school coordinators to make sure we're bringing in our families to, again, provide resources and do that important work to help whatever family needs may be in play, that again, help that student make sure that they can have that good attendance and get again on track, knowing that you're coming in on a sort of a compressed timeline when you come in that middle and high school area. It is, yeah.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you very much. The embrace of our departments, our chairs here, there's a strong wraparound development for multi-language learners, okay, that goes on, and deep embedding of effort in each of these. I've seen it. I've seen it in action, and I think but you cannot say. I mean, in my mind, it's a compressed timeline because as we all know, it takes X number of years to become proficient in another language. Now, here's one advantage that these students have, and that is that they already probably have learned another language. So they have picked up the skills of learning language, learning a new language. But we have some of the greatest support in our schools to help these young people, young scholars forward. And so I just want to give a shout out to those people in our schools who take their extra time, their off time, and they really push in bringing our students into the fold.
Great, thank you, commissioners. Any other question? Appreciate that. Did you have something, Commissioner Song? Okay. So again, I want to thank you ladies for the presentation and thank everyone in City Schools for the lift we're collectively doing on behalf of our young people. And then finally, I just want to remind everyone that registration for our summer programs is officially open. Visit our summer learning website on Parent Portal to access detailed information about the variety of programs we're offering this summer, from academic enrichment and the arts to sports and STEM. There really is something for every student to enjoy and learn from. And then in addition to district-wide programs, really pleased to say many of our schools will be hosting their own unique summer programs. So please be sure to check your child's school directly to learn about these exclusive offerings. And with that, this concludes my remarks for this evening, and I will turn it back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Santelises. I also just want to take just a moment to, one of the reasons why I wanted you to highlight that increase in the graduation rate, and I appreciate what you all just mentioned, is because someone please tell me what our goal is for graduation rate, the board's goal. Board colleagues, everyone.
100% if they could. Yeah. But
Someone said it, I heard it. It's 76%, right? That is the goal. So certainly that isn't where we want to land. It would be lovely if we could exceed that, right? And I think that the work of the team is focused on that, but that is also why we're seeing the increase. I'm an educator, so it's important that we all know that goal, right? Because we all have to row and move in the same direction. And so if our goal is 76%, this is the opportunity, board colleagues, for us to lean into this work because it's a part of our priority. But not just us, all stakeholders. We all have a role in ensuring that we increase this graduation rate. So it's really important that we all understand that. So thank you, Dr. Santelises. I also briefly want to if you all can take a look around this space, it looks different, doesn't it? It is certainly an update. And so our project manager for this update, and several updates are happening. Certainly we want to acknowledge the work of our Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Lynette Washington, but also Michael McBride. Michael McBride was the project manager for this. Michael? Oh, Michael, of course. Okay. I just want to say thank you, right? Thank you for this work and just making sure that we are able to see some updates in this building. We know that most of our resources go into our actual school buildings. That's our priority. But we appreciate this work as well. So thank you. I also briefly want to touch on another thing that aligns to the work of not just the operations team, but certainly we celebrate them, but so many stakeholders. We've been saying this over the past couple of weeks because Baltimore City is a Magna Award winner. And Dr. Santelises is holding up the National School Board Association's American School Board Journal. Over this past weekend, several board members in,
Page 20.
it's on page 28.
See, Commissioner Coy got it for me, but I lost it.
Baltimore City was awarded a Magna Award. Thank you. A Magna Award for its 21st Century Buildings program. So can we shout that out for a minute? And so, oh, look at that. So you'll see a couple of photos from us actually being presented with this award, the board. So of course, as you all know, this is an iteration of the school board, right? But there have been several iterations of the school board that made the 21st Century Buildings program possible. Dr. Washington was on that original team that kind of helped with a lot of this work. And we also see Monique Romo, who's there as well, that traveled to New Orleans with us to accept this award, and to also hear about how some other jurisdictions are now taking their cue from us and working to modernize some of their buildings in the spirit of partnership. So there were multiple stakeholders engaged in this work. We have multiple legislators, former board members, legislators, our partners with the IAC and the Maryland Stadium Authority, and just community members, so many folks, our CEO and former Chief of Staff, Allison Perkins. This has been a huge undertaking. How many school buildings are new or renovated since 2016? I just want to, what was that number? What was the number, everyone? Unheard of across the country, right? And so this is a huge win for us. Now, we have the oldest portfolio of schools in the state, and we have a long way to go, but we are celebrating this win for the sake of our young people, for the sake of our children. They deserve modernized buildings. They deserve to be in those spaces. And so kudos to Baltimore. And you see the vice chair looking nice as the vice chair in that photo as well, because if it was not for the vice chair acknowledging this, thinking that this was important, putting our name in the hat to be chosen for this, we would not be celebrated for this award. So Vice Chair Roberts, thank you for your leadership. And
The website, because that's where I got the content.
the 21st Century's website. So thank you to the 21st Century's team. Thank you to Baltimore. Thank you to the city. Thank you to the school system. We appreciate all of you, but the work is not done. So we still have, work to do in advocating, but ensuring that all of our buildings are spaces where our students can thrive and be successful. So I wanted to highlight that. Thank you all for allowing me that personal moment of privilege. I will now review the consent agenda. Board colleagues, please let me know if you would like an item removed, and please state your question for staff. Item 9.01, gifts and donations, Item 9.02, gifts and donations. Item 9.03, supplemental appropriations. Item 9.04, supplemental appropriations. Item 9.05, supplemental appropriations. Item 9.06, SY 24-25 district calendar.
Chair,
Commissioner Coy,
I'd like to pull it for a vote.
thank you. Item 12.01, Coppin State University. Item 12.02, institutions of higher education, high dosage tutoring. Item 15.01, Bronner Builders. Item 15.02, Tito Contractors. Item 15.03, Tito Contractors. Item 15.04, Modular Genius. Item 15.05, St. Mary's Roofing and Home Improvement. Item 15.06, Taxi Cab Services. Item 16.01, Johns Hopkins University Teaching Well. Item 18.01, Croman and Graham, PA, Legal Services. Item 19.01, Private Duty Nursing Services, Comprehensive Nursing Services, Inc. Item 19.02, the Flipping Group. Thank you. We will now move into public comment. Speakers from recognized groups will have the opportunity to speak for 5 minutes, as is our practice. We first have Zach Taylor representing the Baltimore Teachers Union.
Good evening. My name is Zach Taylor, and I'm going to be making the BTU public comment. Tonight, we are focused on city schools falling behind implementation in the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, and in particular, behind on the elements regarding the career ladder, the whole structure that is supposed to help incentivize, recruit, and retain high-quality educators. In particular, we want to call out that our district chose not to create a career ladder development board. This is something that was highly encouraged at the state level, at the AAIB, and we know that every other district in the state of Maryland has some version of this. Our district does not. They refuse some of the suggestions that you can see here that BTU made, and consequently, all of our conversations are happening at a high stakes level in negotiations, rather than being able to work out complicated issues in a less stressed or tense environment. And consequently, we're receiving negotiations proposals that are a little broad and do not actually deal with the specificity that we see across the state when we talk to other bargaining units, and actually when we see other presentations at the board level from what districts are currently working on. Also unique across the entire state of Maryland, Baltimore City Schools is trying to require more work in order to earn one of the benchmark incentives. Teachers in the blueprint earn a $10,000 salary supplemental when they earn national board certification. National board certification is extremely rigorous. It is incredible professional recognition, and it's something that by law comes with a $10,000 salary supplement, which is shared cost with the state. Everywhere across the state, teachers earn this when they earn an NBC. Our district is trying to say, you actually have to do more work. You have to do additional responsibilities either within or outside of the classroom in order to earn the $10,000. This is one of the proposals that we have heard from the board and the board's representatives, and it is something that, frankly, other districts see as undermining Baltimore City's competitivity. We have talked with many other unions, and they say that this will actually make it significantly easier for places like Baltimore County, Howard County, Anne Arundel County, all over the state to recruit away some of Baltimore City's best educators and to have them work in their districts where you will earn the $10,000 salary supplement just by having national board certification. Current teachers and city schools see this as an insult, and it's something that, again, just would put us behind where everyone else is. Additionally, this piles on additional tasks that have become emblematic with how city schools has been treating its educators. Rather than taking work off the plate and letting people focus on their students in classrooms, we are adding on additional responsibilities. This flies in the face of the recommendations from the district's own partner, the Fund for Educational Excellence, which really highlighted workload issues. This report, Should I Stay or Should I Go? I'm not going to go through all of it, but you can see one of the direct quotes. Teachers note a big disconnect between expectations from district leadership and management and what their everyday experience is like in schools. I'm not going to highlight all of the work-life balance issues here. I hope that you all spend time reading this report and considering some of the actions that city schools is taking, and also recognize that currently our teachers have the shortest guaranteed planning time in the state. Elementary school and even high school teachers fall way behind what we see with our main peers in Anne Arundel, Baltimore County, and so on. So we have a bunch of recommendations. I'm not going to have time to walk through all of these, but you can see at its core, we are requesting that city schools supports and doesn't undermine the blueprint. The career ladder must be bargained with the BTU, and it's best to come at this from a position of collaboration rather than contention. We want to work with you. We have a bunch of ideas, but it needs to come from meaningful collaboration. We need you to champion classroom teachers rather than pushing them out and undercutting our own competitivity. Don't take extreme positions that will make it harder for us to recruit and retain, like saying you only earn the statewide incentive if you do more duties. That will just push teachers to other districts. We need more support for teachers who are going through the NBC process. We need to reduce the teachers' administrative responsibilities, and we need to increase their planning time. Let teachers focus on teaching. Implement the other recommendations, and we want meaningful school board collaboration. So thank you, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Next, we will have from the Associated Student Congress of Baltimore City, ASCBC, Chloe McNeil, who is the Communication Committee Chair. Good evening, Chloe. How can I get one of those sweatshirts? I prefer the sweatshirts. Can someone give me one? I would really like one. I think I might have asked Commissioner, oh, he's not here, Lawson.
We'll make sure, Chair, that we locate a T-shirt for you.
A sweatshirt.
A sweatshirt, excuse me.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chloe McNeil. I'm a senior at Baltimore School for the Arts, and I'm the chair of the Communications Committee at ASCBC, which is charged with supporting ASCBC's efforts to connect with our Baltimore City community, including the upkeep of the ASCBC website, management of our social media accounts, creating engagement tactics, and coordinating our members to provide testimony to the board, as I'm doing tonight. Today, I will be speaking on behalf of ASCBC to inform you of our recent accomplishments and some upcoming events for Baltimore City students. Before I continue, I would like to thank the school board and City Schools leadership for the opportunity to speak. Thank you. Tonight, I will be providing updates on two of ASCBC's initiatives, including our Legislative Advocacy Day in Annapolis and our election cycle, which is currently underway. ASCBC's Legislative Affairs Committee has successfully taken students from different SGAs across the city to Annapolis for their Legislative Affairs Day on March 13th. Students traveled to Annapolis and took a tour of the Maryland State House and the House of Delegates. Students studied the blueprint for Maryland's future and the Healthy Schools Facilities Fund in preparation for the day. These two laws are the ones that have started to improve the quality of education and learning facilities in Baltimore City. Students also had the opportunity to meet Baltimore City Student Page, currently serving in Annapolis, and we attended a bill hearing and committee. Senator Corey McCray and Delegate Stephanie Smith recognized ASCBC on the Senate and House floor, and we are so grateful for them for elevating the profile of Baltimore's youth leaders in Annapolis. We also want to thank the delegates who took the time to speak with us, including Robin Lewis, Jackie Addison, and Kaylin Young, as well as Melissa Broom and Dewana Sterrett, who supported ASCBC in planning this event. The Legislative Affairs Committee looks forward to building on this day of legislative advocacy to deepen the impact of Baltimore youth in policymaking. ASCBC elections are coming up very soon. The candidate application window closed yesterday, April 8th, and I'm excited to report that 14 candidates representing 9 schools have applied. On April 23rd, ASCBC will hold its next General Assembly meeting at which SGAs across Baltimore will be charged with supporting voter engagement across our district. The campaigning window opens on April 29th, and schools should expect to receive election posters shortly after. A full voter guide and candidate videos will be available on ASCBC's website, and the Elections Committee will host a live candidate town hall on May 9th from 6 to 7 p.m. We hope everyone tunes in then to hear from the candidates. The voting window runs from May 20th through May 23rd. Please help us spread the word that all 6th through 12th grade students can vote for their representatives. Lastly, ASCBC will be traveling to the Maryland Association of Student Council Spring Leadership Conference on April 13th at South Hagerstown High School. During the day, students will have workshops, a General Assembly session, and an awards program to honor students and their accomplishments. 9 Baltimore City schools will be attending, and we are especially proud to share that students from Digital Harbor High School will be presenting a workshop. To conclude, I would like to thank the members of ASCBC's Executive Board for being such influential leaders. I would also like to thank the members of each committee for their dedication to helping us accomplish our goals for ASCBC.
Baltimore City SGAs would not exist without the hard work of their executive boards and their advisors. And finally, ASCDC would not be here without the tireless efforts of our regional advisor, Haley Tilt. And one more thing, I would not be doing my duties as a communications chair if I didn't encourage everyone to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Balt City ASCDC. That is the @ BALTCITY ASCDC, Instagram and Twitter. Thank you for listening.
Next, we're going to have from the Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee, CCAC, Ms. Sheila Billups, the chair. Good evening, Ms. Billups.
Good evening, Chair, Co-Chair, Dr. Santalese, all those virtual and in person. Greetings to you all. I would like to let you know that your meeting tonight is not the first time this door was open. We was here last night, and I love the new look. It's very inviting. We have an impactful meeting last night. We talked about healthcare and transition, which is very important for our students that's graduating or even turning 18. It's very important for them to know about, their parents to know about healthcare. Also, this is Autism Month, so we had a guest speaker from Pathfinders for Autism, Mr. Neil Leitner. He came and gave us an overview of the wonderful accomplishments of things that's going on in that committee or that company. Also, I'm back again to talk to you about the Maryland Special Education Survey. May 24th is the deadline. So any parents that have children receiving special education services, I implore you to fill out the survey. Your voice makes a difference. Your opinion matters. But the only way it can matter is that you fill out the survey so they will understand your concerns and handle it. Also, I want to let you know that in May 13th, we're here in this room, we'll have another meeting, and our presenter will be that night, will be Andre Raleigh, talking about the portrait of a graduate. Also, we will be having Dr. Erica Levy. She will be discussing behaviors and social emotional issues. If you have any concerns about behavior issues with your student, please come. Your answers is here. Your concerns will be heard and we will address them. But the only way we can do that is that you show up. I'm imploring everyone to come out to the meetings. Being virtual is good, but being in person is very important. There are resources and there's folders of a lot of information. I can't give that to you virtual. You have to be in the room in order to receive it. My last comment is to let you know that we'll be having an election this year. There are 2 years, the 2 years I have, the 2 years is up for the executive committee. Okay, the positions, we have several positions available: the chair, the vice chair, the treasurer, the recording secretary, and the correspondence secretary. That is the executive committee for CCAT. We will be having that election in June. May, 3 individuals have come forward to help with this election. They will talk more about it in May meeting. Thank you so much. Love you all.
Thank you, Ms. Billups. I'll now turn it over to Dr. Judkins for public comment.
All right. Thank you, Chair. Our first public comment is from Marian Jara. Agenda topic, access to playground and translation services. This will be a video.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Miriam Jara. My school work is 227, Commodore John Royer. I'm here because definitely I want to express my voice about for two topics. The first one is about for interpret and translate. That is the priority. It's because in some afternoon I'm working in different school, special, high school. That is my bigger problem, my bigger experience. So one time I remember and try to interpret for the meeting, and unfortunately the parents don't idea the Infinity Campus, the parent control, because it's just a some school don't focus and not pay attention. I think that is very good because it's very important. Parents notice the student attendance, the student grades, and when that's not happening, that is broken the communication. And especially because nobody is speaking Spanish, no finding somebody speak Spanish, what is the support maker to that family? My second topic is about for the playground in Commodore. Unfortunately, right now it's in the swimming space, it's empty, it's nothing for my kids play, and especially because I'm working with the little ones, pre-K and kindergarten, and I notice that kids is just, rounding around, it's empty place, no nothing, and I don't know what is exactly happening. So why bring to all the stuff in the other school? Because I saw that Spider-Man, I saw the playground. So why not is possible provided this place for kids play in the building? Because when that's not happening, it's you need something. No, okay. When that's happening, it's definitely different change the life. That is not the first time. I say one more time because definitely I think when the people need focus about how much is important, not just the academic, it's just to the kids need make it, screaming and playing, jumping and something like that. That's a big difference. But when it's just the students turn around and nothing changed, definitely I asking all my kids say, how is your feeling? No playground, no sad. It's my feeling too. And I have good memory when I had that little one's age. So please, I need not just to skip my voice. I want to see make it a support, trying to make it help. And that's the reason I want to like it for not just for my daughter or for my old school, Commodore John Royer. Thank you. And not just in here for complaint, it's just because I need try to solution this problem and try to make it a support for all the parents in Baltimore City, because it's very important. When the student has that good thing, is everything is changed in life. Thank you and appreciation for listening to me.
Our next public comment is from Chris Patterson. This is a parent, teacher, community member. Topic is wellness, and this will be an email that's read. Good evening. I am Chris Patterson, a parent and member of the West Baltimore community, and I would like to discuss the topic of financial wellness. As a proud graduate of Baltimore City Public Schools, I was fortunate to experience a middle school math educator, John Davis, who exposed his students to educational tasks that provided rigor and was embedded with real-world connections. The tasks provided me and my classmates an opportunity to explore career choices, make housing decisions, and learn how to write a check. The experience was life-changing for me. I was one of many students that were able to explore financial knowledge and make connections to how financial decisions impact one's life choices. The single occurrence of financial wellness in my educational career equipped myself and others with a foundational block needed to build financial literacy. Assuring that our scholars have required 21st century skills needed to become college and career ready, we must also focus on financial wellness. I am asking that the Baltimore City Public School System mandate the implementation of financial wellness. Steps towards this initiative could be the use of programs like JA Business Park, partnerships with financial institutions in the communities, and leveraging our knowledgeable staff. We must equip our scholars who are entrusted with the future to be communicators of their needs. Creative with their approach, critical thinkers when making decisions, and collaborators for the best possible outcome. Thank you, Chris Patterson. Our next public comment is from Brandis Alexander, Baltimore Design School. Agenda topic is bullying, and this is also an email to be read. To whom it may concern, I am Brandis Alexander, a mother in the city of Baltimore, but I'm also a graduate of Patterson High School class of 2007. Being a child, teen, and parent in this community, I have seen some of the greatest highs and some of the lows with pitfalls in the Baltimore City public school system. Sometimes speaking out isn't heard or taken into account, which I feel isn't fair or going to do the community any good. Parents, teachers, community, students, and even the elected officials need to come to a common ground with budgets, with ideas, and what can bridge the gaps on education, community, and furthering education after high school and even beyond college. You can build the community up with activism and awareness on each person's very own experiences. As a student 20 years ago, sometimes being in the Baltimore Algebra Project, I helped younger students after school with their homework and engaged in school walkouts when I attended Baltimore City College High School, as well as Patterson High. Where one school encouraged my activism, the other school put me in detention and called the Baltimore City Police when I proceeded to lead a walkout for my rights as a student. As a parent, I made better decisions for my children's well-being and made sure they were in a better school culture. They attended the Baltimore Design School. Now, no school is perfect, but this school, being one of the top charters, always aspires to be. One problem of the school that my children attended is bully culture. My eldest child is a meek human and doesn't like confrontation at all. Having a paper trail of conferences and emails didn't really help, and whereas it slowed up with my youngest child began to attend the school because she always defends her brother. That doesn't mean he nor she should be subjected to this. Yes, we have heat tickets and things like that, but I don't think that these things actually are efficient. We need to find more efficient ways to keep the kids in check by their parents and the school being held accountable to contain the adversity that comes from different students' home life that will bleed into the productive days in school. With bullying comes lower test scores and work because children are worrying about people being mean to them or liking them. Yes, everyone isn't going to like you, but a basic respect and emotional safety should be readily available to every student. Our next public comment is from Marlene Boyd. Agenda topic, wellness policy, and she'll be commenting in person.
Be here. This is so going down in history. It's like, my name is Marlene Boyd, and I'm a parent of 3 Baltimore City Public Schools. My oldest has graduated from Mervo. I have a 9th grader at Douglas and a 4th grader. I am here to talk about the wellness policy. Reading over it, I noticed the 7 components defined in the model in COMAR, and they're great. But I encourage us to include and make it better by including financial literacy. When we talk about wellness, that's the basis of wellness, being financially stable, being financially educated. When we talk about healthcare, health insurance, being healthy, buying food, making those choices, organic versus non-organic, we need to teach our kids how to budget for these things. We need to educate them on how to make better choices financially. And when we talk about wellness, I encourage us to include financial literacy in that. Also, school lunch. So we talk about nutrition. Great. I'm so excited that the district is homing in on wellness and nutrition and physical activity. But when we talk about school lunch, I have the opportunity to visit a lot of schools. And I was at Frederick Douglass, and I sat in a parent engagement, and they had students there, and the one topic that came up was school lunch. It's disgusting. I hate it. They make us take it, I throw it away. Now, as a taxpayer, I just hear money going wasted. So I then had the privilege to talk to a parent that participated in a vendor conference where we go and we choose vendors for our public schools school lunch. And I don't know, I did go on the district website to find out more about who the vendor was. Are we sourcing locally? How are they providing food? And all this great stuff to find that food and nutrition falls under finance. I'm a little worried about that because with my experience in the military and federal government, when you talk about finance and someone managing finances, they're not worried about nutrition. They're worried about the bottom line, how much it costs to feed these kids, what we can, take out or leave in. I'm not saying that we're choosing the cheapest, but I don't know because there's no information for me to dive into. So I would like that information to understand better how the process is when we choose our vendors, who is the vendor, how are they providing food for our students. as well as the process. Is the finance being collaborated with someone that actually cares and knows about the food that we're providing our students? Across Baltimore City, there is complaint after complaint about the food. There's a hula hoop going on. Complain to the district say complain to the school say this is what the district tell us. Enough is enough. I have a 4th grader. I don't want to go another 8 years trying to figure out and make sure she eats during the day in school because she can't eat the school lunch. There's been a couple of times, all 3 of my kids have gotten sick off the school lunch. So if there's a way for parents to be more involved in the process of choosing what type of school lunch or what vendor is being provided, I would appreciate that. And I look forward to working with you guys on it.
Thank you.
Thank you. If we could, before you leave, connect Doc.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank you for your testimony and let you know that the Chief Financial Officer just came in. And as you noted, and by the way, congratulations for being part of a very small percentage of the general public who has actually looked at our org chart. So I appreciate that. No, I was impressed when you were like, it actually a person. I was like, wow, that's impressive. So what we can do is have somebody follow up with you specifically with regards to the meals and some of the concerns you raised this evening. But I wanted to make sure that you could connect, make sure we get your name and get you in direct contact with our
Thank you
food
so
and
much.
nutrition. Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, our next public comment is from Cortina Barnes. Agenda topic, program for parents in their children's schools. This will be a video.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Cortina Barnes, and I am a member of the Alliance to Reclaim Our Baltimore Schools Arrows. More importantly, I am a mom of a Maribel graduate and a 10-year-old who is doing good in city schools. I am a 17-year volunteer of the Family Tree Agency and a captain of outreach team. I sit on the Maryland Parent Leadership Board and runs a parent support group. My experience as a survivor of childhood abuse, sexual assault, and domestic violence allow me to use my past trauma as a powerful tool to be the voice for parents. I am proud of my work, including winning the Hometown Hero and National Parent Leader of the Year. Our parents, particularly those who are rough around the edges, can do a lot better with the proper support from the board, with power and control. By helping the parents, we are helping the children. The support that we need is parents and classes in the schools, anger management, financial literacy, and restorative practices. Just like the teachers deliver curriculum to students, we need curriculum delivered to the parents. We need financial literacy classes with parents and students ages 13 to 18. Despite what you, the board, may think, these services are not available for the families despite the available resources. Principals have to provide these services. I am here to tell you that is not the case. While there are schools doing superhero work with superhero community school coordinators, yes, there are superhero principals. You have far too many schools where parents don't know what is going on because they don't feel welcome in the building. Folks don't even know who the coordinator is. I am an active parent, and I just found out my son's school have a free uniform program. It takes a village to make this happen. We can't come to the head of the village begging. We need you to recognize us and meet us halfway. When superhero principals and school coordinators take on too much, they fall. Then they leave. We can't rely on superheroes as schools. Past work approach for support and resources is not enough. We need systems and supports that are conductive, productive, and well-resourced. Identifying parents and having constant events with these parents across the city and not depending on the best ran led agency or a superhero school leader. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Aria Sutton. Agenda topic, school grading system and parent participation. This will also be a video.
My name is Aria Sutton, and I have a grandson that attends Baltimore City Schools. In light of policy IKA being discussed by the board, I want to discuss the misalignment between Google Classroom and Infinite Campus. Whenever I speak with teachers about grades and assignments, they talk about Google Classroom, and even for assignments done in class. It becomes very confusing because not all the Google Classroom assignments are completed on Google Classroom. Some of them are done in class, which is not indicated that way when parents look into Google Classroom for the child's grades and assignments they completed. They often have zeros in Google Classroom, which leads parents to believe that the child did not complete the assignment and received a zero as an official grade. This puts a lot of pressure on the child and the parent. Understandably, it takes a while for teachers to grade assignments in Google Classroom once they are completed, but it's hard to understand how these grades translate to Infinite Campus. It's very confusing to me as a parent. I began questioning my grandson about what assignments he turned in and what is missing. This causes a lot of confusion between the parent and the child, and I'm sure I'm not the only parent experiencing this in Baltimore City. There should be a way for teachers to indicate assignments done in class and grades pending so parents won't put undue pressure on the student. It can be very stressful for everyone involved. There should also be some sort of training video on how Google Classroom and Infinite Campus works together so parents can be empowered and work as a team member with the student, teachers, and school. Most would say the students should know, but they are still children and need the support of everyone to succeed. We should want everyone to feel empowered to educate our children. This leads to my second topic, filling the gap, between parents and the schools and the students. If parents understood the grading system better, then maybe there would be more parent participation. Empowering parents is key to a child's success. I'm a parent who follows up all the time, and it feels like a second job to me. I know many parents feel frustrated and simply leave it up to the school. Our children are failing this way. We have to help parents understand this grading system by making the necessary changes in Google Classroom and Infinite Campus that align with how assignments are actually performed in the classroom.
All right, thank you. Our next public comment is from Carla Harris, community member, agenda topic, autism awareness, and she'll be commenting in person. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to share potentially life-changing information. Last year, I was given the opportunity to help serve a group of small children diagnosed with autism. It was as eye-opening as it was challenging. Not long after I started, I committed to learn even more about autism. First, I learned that autism is a lifelong condition. At the same time, I was surprised to see that we are learning there are several conditions that mimic autism. So I am here to share that reports and research from doctors and universities show symptoms of autism have been reversed in repeated cases once an underlying condition has been diagnosed and treated. In other words, the child's symptoms of autism were brought on by one or more of the following treatable conditions as a minimum, but not by autism because autism is a lifelong condition. So far as a minimum, we know the following conditions can mimic autism. I'll list them, then go back. Mold, specifically Aspergillus, the microbe T. gondii, heavy metals, free glutamate, pesticides, non-celiac gluten sensitivity, wheat sensitivity, VOC smelly chemicals, the preservative calcium propionate, and tick-borne illness. Now I'll go back and talk about the breadth of this and how why it needs to be considered. The mold Aspergillus and the corresponding mycotoxin, ochratoxin A, is found in food. It's found in milk from cows that were fed wheat that had the mold. And the mold goes to some children and shows up as symptoms of autism, but it can be treated. And the records and research show that when you treat these conditions, the symptoms of autism can go away. The other that I want to highlight is a microbe called T. gondii. It is on the radar of the CDC, and the CDC is reporting there are 60 million Americans, 60 million, that's 1 out of 5, that are infected with this microbe that not only disrupts the pancreas and creates diabetes, it disrupts brain functions and can show up as symptoms of autism. In view of the spike in autism diagnosis over the past 20 years, this evening I implore you to commit to ensure that all Baltimore families, educators, administrators, IEP managers, and service providers are made aware that there are conditions that mimic autism in an effort to actually identify the root cause of autism symptoms, hopefully before the diagnosis of autism is made. Board members, ruling out the possibility of conditions that mimic autism must become a part of the protocol for evaluating children who exhibit symptoms of autism. Thank you for this time to spotlight conditions that mimic autism.
Thank you. Our next public comment is Jocelyn Providence, agenda topic maternity paternity leave, 21st century schools, math curriculum, and she'll be commenting virtually.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Okay.
you.
All right. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jocelyn Providence, and I'm a high school math teacher in Baltimore City. And I'll be talking on the topics that were just stated. So the 21st Century School Initiative has a lot of potential. Everyone who has been involved in Baltimore City Public Schools or advocated for Baltimore City Public Schools knows that many of our buildings, like stated earlier, are very old and in need of a large investment in infrastructure. This is not due to budgeting within Baltimore City Public Schools, but because there has been a historic underfunding of Baltimore City Public Schools. This was one of the reasons why so many were so excited and continue to be excited about this now award-winning 21st Century School Initiative. However, the initiative is not reaching its fullest potential due to inefficient renovations and planning. And like Chair McFadden said, there is a lot more work that still needs to be done. A few examples of this is not fully listening and implementing recommendations from staff members in the planning process and not following up with and fixing important school infrastructure issues like HVAC and even sewage smelling issues. For example, when making a 21st century school, it doesn't make sense for a school that is a brand new building to not have enough classrooms for all of the teachers and classes. And if the building is brand new, it is inefficient for a school building to have the heat way too high or the air conditioning way too high. How can we make sure that future and current 21st century school buildings are living up to their fullest potential without staff members being criticized when they bring up an issue in the current building? Next, the district is currently deciding on a new math curriculum. There was a comprehensive review process, quote unquote, that determined the 2 finalists, but it was not public, and only now are these 2 finalists programs being asked for teachers' opinions. Only including our opinion at the very end is not inclusive. And again, why do we not value the opportunity to create and develop our own Baltimore City math curriculum that would emphasize the expertise of our own teachers? Why do we continue to spend millions of dollars for these outside corporations to tell us what we already know what our students should be learning, including financial literacy, which was discussed a lot this evening? Finally, the school board and previous school board members and current and previous members of the district staff and Dr. Santelices have heard me say this millions of times, and I'm going to continue to say it. It is immoral for you all to force Baltimore City employees to split their paternity and maternity leave if they are married to another Baltimore City employee. Y'all are denying the birthing parent full time to recover, along with their partner to support the recovery and bond with the newborn. We as educators know how important the first couple of years and even the first couple of months are for the health and well-being of the child and the birthing parent. Yet you all continue this policy even though y'all have the ability to change it. As I previously stated, we've been doing this for years, and at this point, it's just disrespectful that it still hasn't been changed. If you value us, respect our curricular expertise, and respect our health and our family's well-being. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Lakeisha Carr. Agenda topic, school safety. It will be an email that will be read. My name is Lakeisha Carr, and my focus is safety inside and outside of our public schools. I am a parent of 7 BCPSS children, one of which is a high school student. As my time in teaching my children, I haven't seen much changes with the safety factor in schools. I personally would like to see more crossing guards, making sure our children are safely getting to school, as the ride to school is quite busy during rush hour. And as for high school, my 10th grade student has been through some events at Mervo, one being a school shooting and another being a successful suicide on campus. Both of said events made my 10th grader feel unsafe and is affecting him both socially and academically in a negative way. As a parent, resident of Baltimore City, I would like to know the budget for school safety. Although I have my own thoughts, I would also like to know what could be done. And our last public comment is from Maggie Van Galen, visiting community member. Agenda topic, children's book for special needs children and getting them into school. Should be commenting in person. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, thank you for having me. I am here from Boston. I came down, I met Miss Sheila today, and I did a reading at the Bear School. So very excited to be here and to be able to talk with you guys today.
On the campus of Mervo.
Give us 1 second. Someone's not muted in our call.
This person just said that her son has been.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I am a children's book author. I've written 2 books called King's Day Out. And our goal with the books is to empower kiddos that have a neurodiverse diagnosis to navigate life's sensory adventures. So these are the books, very excited. They are now in the Bear School. And I was encouraged by Ms. Sheila to come and talk to you guys about the possibility of getting the books into all the public schools. They are fun read-along books. The hero of the story is a child that's neurodiverse and has sensory string to it. Our primary audience that would, I guess, associate with this would be an autistic or ADHD type audience. But they're fun read-along books for anybody. And so that's why I'm here. So if there's any information that you would like, I have little pamphlets that I'm happy to hand out. Thank you again for having me. Thank you for having lovely weather in Baltimore. I just came from 4 inches of snow in Boston. So thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us, and just give that information to Dr. Jenkins at the end so that we can all have it. Thanks. Commissioner Lawson, we are ready for your remarks.
Thank you, Chair. So good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, our last board meeting, I had the flu and I couldn't be with you all, so I am glad to be back. And with that, I would like to start with the report from the MASC, Maryland Association for Student Councils Annual Fall Convention. My colleagues at ASCBC reported on this during the March 12th board meeting, and I would like to share from the perspective of the student commissioner. This convention was an amazing opportunity for students and our middle and high school students. We learned everything from the importance of student leadership, parliamentary procedure, and even self-care within student leadership. I would like to emphasize again that Baltimore City had the largest delegation out of all the LEAs in Maryland. This is a major win for our district and for student leadership. So it's really good. And I would like to again, like my partner at CBC, Chloe, the communications chair said, This would not be possible without Haley Tilt, who is our regional advisor, who does an amazing job coordinating all of these events with the SCBC. March 6th was the Student Board Forum. This was an opportunity for students to connect with the board on a more personal level about policies under review, such as our school calendar and policy ADF. Students spoke directly to committee chairs about a wide variety of topics that affect their school community and their community at large. Special thank you to the Office of Communication, Enrollment and Engagement, Office of the Chief of Staff, Board Office, and all students and commissioners for attending. Last week was National AP Week. Thank you to all of our assistant principals for all of your hard work. Leadership and education is hard, so we would always like to take the time from the students' perspective to thank not only our teachers, but our administrators as well for all the hard work that you do. That is the hallway of Booker T. Washington, outside of their assistant principal's office. So I would like to thank them as well. Along with National AP Week, I visited Frederick Douglass High School. This again was an opportunity for me to walk the halls, just talk to their students in their cafeteria, talk to their SGA about problems that affect their school community and how I can better assist them as the student commissioner, and listen from a more of a governance perspective. So thank you to the admin, ILED, and SGA for welcoming me into their building. And then finally, this past weekend, I attended the NSBA, National School Board Association Conference. This was an amazing conference as the student commissioner, to see how school boards and schools operate nationally, often focusing on Maryland and all of the success and progress that we made around student leadership and student board members' voting rights. It was amazing, and other districts saw me there and they were like, wow, this is amazing. I connected with school board members from New York to help their students get a better voice on their board. Also attended breakout sessions such as how there can be underlying racism in policy and vagueness in policy and how that can affect students and generations down the line. So it was a very powerful conference, and I am so glad to be able to attend with my fellow colleagues, as well as being on stage when we received this award for our 21st Century School. So that was also amazing. And my time as student commissioner unfortunately comes to an end. I am taking all of these amazing experiences in. And during my last days, I want to start to bridge the connect between this seat and the incoming student commissioner. So I soon will be working with our board office to create a guide on being a student commissioner, and I'm going to reach out to my past commissioner colleagues, student commissioner colleagues, to write this guide, to make sure that the work that I do in this position and the work that previous student commissioners have done in this position continues for generations to come. So, Chair, with that will be the end of my remarks tonight. Thank you all.
There's only one Jameer Lawson. There's only one Jameer Lawson, and we're very proud of him. He's such an asset to our city and our system. We're now going to go to, we're not doing any committee reports tonight. We have several things to do still. Let's go to item 9.06. Calendar. Commissioner Coyle, you pulled that. What's your for vote? All right, so let's go to item 9.01. Is there a motion to approve item 9.06, the calendar?
So move.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second, Sally.
Thank you, Commissioner Sally. All in favor? Vice Chair Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Coy?
No.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay? Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sally?
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington? I am also in favor. That motion passes with 7 in favor and 1 opposed. Is there a motion to approve the remaining consent agenda? Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second read.
Thank you, Commissioner Reed. All in favor, Vice Chair Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bey,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sally,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington. I'm also in favor. That motion passes unanimously with members who are present. We're going to move to item 10.01, FY 24, quarter 2, year-to-date budget and expenditures. And we will move directly into item SY 24-25 fiscal budget. Marianne, if we can hit the high points as quickly as possible for this, I'd appreciate it. Certainly, I know item 10.02 is it's going to take up some time, so we can move through this rather quickly. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
There it is. I'll abbreviate it as much as I can. I was going to say greetings to everyone. Usually I say board chair, vice chair, all the board commissioners, all, but greetings to everyone. And also to city school staff members who are here and our community partners. We certainly appreciate that. I'm here to present a brief review of the financial results for the general fund for city schools as of FY 2024 quarter 2. This is the quarterly budget briefing that has been provided to the Finance and Performance Committee at Baltimore City Council as part of their budget oversight function. So, okay. Thank you. Okay, next one. The reason this is done is for compliance with a City of Baltimore legislation that they ask for briefings to City Council on how the city's actual finances and the city schools' finances compare to budget projections. Okay. So I'll briefly try to run through revenue and expense. Okay, yes, if I could see the bottom of the revenue, 52.3, yes, thank you very much. These are the main sources of revenue for the general fund. As you can see, the bulk of our money comes from the state of Maryland, through the Blueprint and Kerwin and all that. We budgeted approximately 71% of our revenue to come from the state of Maryland and about 28% to come from the city of Baltimore. So the numbers for actual are not very far from that. We've received 72.3% from the state and 27.3% from the city. Just want to note the timing differences in the way we get our revenue sources. The state of Maryland gives us our money 6 times a year, bulk of it. So we get 6 payments every other month starting in July. So for year-to-date December, we will have had 3 payments. So we should have roughly half of our revenue from the state. The city of Baltimore provides revenue to us twice a month. The first of the month and the 15th. So the way that they two join together is actually a very good cash flow series for city schools. So the city of Baltimore gives us their local required contribution, which is determined by the Blueprint calculations. They compare it to maintenance of effort, whichever is higher, that's what the city must pay us. And they do. So their payments to us include our local required contribution and the retiree health benefits that pass through our books. Federal revenue, as you can see, we have not recorded that much in federal revenue as of year-to-date December. Our federal revenue includes impact aid, ROTC, E-rate, FEMA. the IRS subsidy, and we have a new funding source this year called the Emergency Connectivity Fund, which flows through USAC, which is the Universal Service Administrative Company. That little charge you see on every phone bill you get, they take that money from each individual that has a phone, and they distribute that money as reimbursement to the local school district for reimbursements of certain expenditures. This year, city schools received funding. They actually receive a grant in advance from the Emergency Connectivity Fund, or ECF. In the third quarter, we will record $5.6 million in funding from the Emergency Connectivity Fund, and we're also coming to the board for a supplemental appropriation to be able to take advantage of another grant that they have offered to us. And that will be about 8.4 million, but that will be subject to board approval. So investment, so that's federal. Most of the revenue that we've got there is ROTC. The investment earnings have been recorded as of December. We do not get monthly statements so much from our investment accounts. We usually get them quarterly, and we record them off of those statements. Just to keep in mind how much this moves. In FY 2023, we had $19.4 million in investment earnings, 1.1 million in FY 22, and 24,000 in FY 21. So it can really move around. It relates to what your cash balance is and what's the interest rate, principally the T-bonds. City schools, as a school system, is very restricted in what we're allowed to invest in. So we invest according to the requirements of the state of Maryland, and it's only in extremely risk-free investments. So that's why we have a lot of our investments are in the T-bills and such. So as that rate goes, so will go our investment income. The other financing source there, $5.6 million, that was what the board approved amount was for to add to our budget to bring revenue and expense into alignment for the FY 2024 budget. The other revenue, we expect that we will be recording additional other revenue. The revenue flow for this it's not with the timing certainty that we have with our city and state revenue. It's more, it comes in when it comes in. So that would be like MSA revenue. We have 4 million budgeted, and we've only got 432,000 recorded to date. So there's a lot of other things, and there's things that don't go somewhere else, but we're expecting that number to be higher. So if I can go to expenditures, the first type of expenditures I'll just speak with briefly. This is the expenditures by MSDE category. City schools is required per COMAR to report our financials on the basis of these MSDE categories. MSDE has given us what a finance manual called the Teal Book, and that's how we record it. So in the interest of time, I won't go into what makes the difference between student health services and student personnel services, but it's spelled out in the MSDE finance manual. The next page is the expenditures by objects, and this is the one that seems to make the most sense to people. So the first column to the left is the FY 2024 budget. Carryovers, actually, the encumbrance expenditures, the encumbrance amounts that are carried over at the end of the prior fiscal year and are included in assigned fund balance. So the sum of those two columns are what is available to spend during FY 2024. So when I look at the total of salary and wages plus benefits, we have approximately 72.7% for the total debt. So that's where the bulk of our expenditures go, personnel related. So our actual year-to-date December is 73.8, so it's just a little bit higher. I believe our fringe is just a percentage or two higher than what we had budgeted originally. And we realign that through budget amendments throughout the year. So the contractual services are also a little bit higher in actual. That's presumably because of the encumbrances. You can see there they have almost $85 million in encumbrances, but that's not unusual for this time of year. So we'll expend it as we go through the rest of the year. Materials and supplies. These are materials that have a useful life less than 1 year, are considered expendables, or whose unit cost is less than $5,000 a unit. That's compared to the property and equipment, which has a useful life of greater than 1 year and whose per unit cost is greater than $5,000. So that's really what distinguishes a lot of the differences between property and equipment and materials and supplies. I did want to point out that the utilities and other charges, that number of $61 million is, that includes utilities, local travel, out of town travel, and it also includes the other charges are the MSA contribution, that $20 million we give a year as our contribution to the 21st century. 10 million of that is on behalf of the city of Baltimore, and 10 million is the city schools portion. So indirect cost recovery, that's a credit that we get to the general fund for the administrative charges that are permitted to be charged to the grants. So that's our administrative fee, so to speak, for administering the grants. This is a timing issue here. We believe that the year end will likely approximate what we have budgeted. It's just, some of the grants are sunsetting, so it won't carry over into next year, but this is a timing issue. I just want to talk for 1 minute about the non-public, the transfers. Transfers for city schools, seed school, tuition, Oklahoma IKC, out-of-county living arrangements, informal kinship care, the amounts we pay to DJS and DHS for children in state supervised care, and the remaining is in our basic non-public expenditures for those students, city school students who attend those special specific non-public schools who their attendance at those schools is required by terms of their IEP. So in total, trying to get through this quickly, please remember year-to-date December, we have 4 months of school expenditures plus the summer program. So that's why you usually, it's not quite an even half and half split. So, and the summary is on the last page. Yeah, here it is. So this just kind of compares where we are at this point in time, and it is a point in time thing. Our revenue is at 52.3% of the original budget, and that may change depending on board approval of supplemental appropriations for the general fund. And our total expenditures, we've spent 53.3%, which is just a little bit more of the half that you would expect. But that's it, trying to go through it quickly. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Mary Ann. Any questions from our colleagues?
Okay,
Thank you very much, Mary Ann.
thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann, and it was very speedy.
For colleagues, we're going to take 3 minutes, okay, before going into this presentation. If you need to just take a moment to use the restroom or grab some water, let's do that. brief moment, and we'll come back at about 8:18.
Yeah, they thought you were gonna need that. They were able to do the environmental thing that helped. Not yet. Now the ICU, because that's still on my. But. Ended up with 3 hours. 52.
I'm sorry.
Does not know.
Thank you.
That was a good one.
It was a good job.
Those are the new hot things.
I like them.
They are. Because they're like spunky, but professional. My husband's trying to find it because we're going to the end of next year. Bless you. Look nice, but
Are they Jensen?
yeah, they're hold on.
Oh, yeah. I know them too. Yeah.
Hello. I think I'm mixed up. Is that right?
Yes.
I'm gonna pull more
And then
chairs
back
up.
to me.
Then back to you? Okay.
No.
Yes, then back to you.
Finish. Sure.
Yes. I'm gonna bring up more chairs.
Oh, that's smart.
It's very, very meaningful across the country and especially here in Baltimore. And so the first thing that one thinks about when we think about FY25 is it's a post-ESSER environment. A second major characteristic is it's year 3 of Maryland's blueprint, blueprint for Maryland's future. Year 3 is actually the leanest year in the 10-year blueprint trajectory. That's a function of its rather idiosyncratic formulas. And we predicted that year 3 would be lean, and we were correct. So there's a double whammy effect that's happening in FY25 as we set the stage, which is the long anticipated post-ESSER environment, combined with, only by happenstance really, the smallest year-over-year increase of the projected of the 10-year Kirwan experience. Those two macroeconomic factors produce some headwinds that are affecting a lot of large districts across the country, and are also, especially with the Kirwan, the blueprint aspect, some of our fellow LEAs in Maryland. We feel like we're in a good position, and we'll lay out the details both tonight and in the budget book. But we're in a good position. We're continuing to invest in all of our core areas, specifically because We really took the message to heart that the COVID ESSER-related funds, as historically high as they were always short-term funds, and we factored that in from the beginning, often at the direction of board members and always at the direction of the CEO. We were told to think with the end in mind, and from the beginning of FY24, we have had a cross-office approach specifically aimed at, okay, FY25 is the first post-ESSER year. What funding is going to end? What funding is going to taper off? What activities are we going to continue, either by pushing them, either by transitioning them to other grant funds or general funds. Dr. Hoffman will talk more later in the presentation, but we want to be able to say to the board that all that preparation has paid off. We think we're in a strong position, and we are not dealing with some of the major and drastic cuts that other districts are facing, or having to shed core activities. So the ESSER cliff is real, but we have planned for it. Next slide. The city school strategic board priorities, of course, with this being the budget for a whole year, we're covering all 7 of these board priorities, quite a lot. And the strategic board priorities actually don't just factor in as far as a slide in this presentation, but they permeate our discussions, and they have permeated the budget development process that, as I say, especially this year, began in earnest in September of last year. Some key dates for the board members. Although we did start the FY25 budget process in earnest in September because of the very specific circumstances we faced, this list is essentially the home stretch. So we're actually kind of at the beginning of the home stretch with this presentation to the board. It's a preliminary presentation, and I think this is, well, I know it's the longest period in my tenure, but the board now has 5 weeks and 1 day in order to chew on this presentation, to get the board book, which will come in 2 days, and to ask questions. Some of the questions have already come in, which is entirely what we want, all with an aim towards a vote on May 15th. I think it might have originally been May 14th, but I think there's an election on that day. And so that's the 5 weeks and 1 day coming up to the vote. So that's a nice unhurried amount of time that we have. This slide gives a bit more detail. I won't read it to you, but it does show that although we are in the home stretch and there's still 5 weeks to go, all of this is really the culmination of lots and lots of activities, both internal office activities and school by school activities. One factor of our school system, of which we're quite proud, is the decentralized nature of the decision making. We have 150 plus generals of their or admirals of their ships, captains of their ship. They each and every one of them have specific school community budget meetings. We have a series of community outreach meetings, all delineated there. And even that, as busy as that slide is actually a summary of a lot more activities, all of which go into the budget book itself. I will say one aspect of having the 5 weeks and a day, all of our school leaders delivered their school budgets, specific school budgets, which come out after a school collaborative process and a very American community discussion, school by school, of what's being done. Every single one of those school leaders got their budgets in on time, which is very much a school plus central office effort. It's really, we were all quite proud of that. The school folks most so, and we supporting them at Central Avenue.
Chris, could I just,
Central
I
office.
just want to emphasize this for the board and for the public, that the board probably knows this very painfully, that there are a number of years we've had to ask for extensions. It has meant folks in finance and other offices have been, needing to be up until the wee hours of the morning. And I just want to applaud our school leaders, our finance team, our central team, school support, academics. Literally, this was an organizational effort, and I don't want to minimize just how significant in a district this size with student-based budgeting, because let's be clear, most other school districts are centrally budgeted at the school level. And so I just want to give a kudos. I actually thought something was wrong at one point because I'm used to getting the call that says, ma'am, we need to have an emergency meeting really quickly, or and there was none of that this year. So I just want to publicly really commend staff, both at the central as well as at the school level, for a job well done. And the fact that we can say 5 weeks is probably what the board has always deserved, but we have had to call on grace from the board for numerous years, and it feels good to be able to hand you budgets with ample time to review. So just thank you to the team for really, really job well done on delivering this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. For those reasons that I've outlined, we are proud to present this budget for your consideration in tandem with the budget book that will come with it. And we don't minimize the significant macroeconomic factors, but we're in a strong position building on the foundations that we've laid. And we look forward to giving you more specifics tonight and through the next 5 weeks.
And I too just want to talk a little bit about how proud I am of this budget. I think that the team really did an incredible job of meeting all the deadlines, of meeting all the complicated Kerwin or blueprint requirements that are really difficult. I think we're ahead of the state in terms of how we're implementing the finance portions of the blueprint. I think we had limited resources this year, and both because of the margin, relatively small increase of the blueprint funding, as well as the cliff of ESSER. And I think people did just an incredible job of building on what works. This budget reflects investment in what works, really looking at what we did and continuing those things that have worked really well and building on our successes. So you will see that throughout the budget, and I think we've done an excellent job of doing that. The way we spent ESSER too, I think, is an exemplar. It's an exemplar in the state. It's an exemplar across the country. We spent the funds. We spent the funds on things that made a difference for young people, things like tutoring, things like summer learning, things like extended day enrichment, professional learning for our staff, facilities improvements that were much needed to bathrooms and science labs and nurses' suites. Those were all really important investments. We did all those things, and we did it in a way that that didn't create an insurmountable cliff, that we were able to back off, not without pain. And again, so huge kudos to Kim, who won't give them to herself when she speaks later, about the fact that we've spent this money. 99.7% of the 23 grants that we've closed out so far, we've spent. That is very unusual to be able to do that, and then to be able to ramp down without the pain is huge too. And huge kudos to this whole team. Having a team, I think, feels who's all this is working together makes a big difference. And offices, and I'll use academics as an example, did a really thoughtful job at looking the investments that they had, deciding which ones we needed to continue, deciding which ones we maybe didn't, and actually in something like tutoring, with a scalpel-like approach in terms of really understanding which of the tutoring worked for which students in which grades in which subjects, so that we could continue those things and then make cuts in other places so that we didn't feel the pain. That's really incredible work and is unusual. As I said, this budget it's grounded in our value, reflects our values. It reflects our focus on continuous improvement and equity. And so it is reflective of just a lot of years of work that you're seeing resulting here. Again, there's an equity lens to this. The board took a real bold role in leading a policy, the development of a policy that reflects our equity values and our and we've done taking the board's direction from the policy, really been implementing that to heart for the last several years. We've done, the equity team has done transformational and foundational work to really make sure that all of our decisions are couched in an equity frame, that our leaders have that equity frame. They've all gone through our equity 101 training. We're now starting the 2.0 version, but principals, assistant principals, district leaderships all have that training. We have equity teams in our schools. We have equity questions that guide our decision making. So you'll see it infused throughout the budget and how we made our decisions. Now you heard Ms. Billups earlier talk about how Andres and the communications team is starting to roll out our portrait of a graduate work. This work too has been very thoughtful to build on the work that we've done. So none of this is, starting from scratch. We're learning, we're a learning organization, and this reflects our commitment to that learning. So this builds on our blueprint, the blueprint that we started in the first year of Dr. Santeli's tenure. There's a lot of the values that you see in those original blueprint and the priorities are very similar. I would say we're going deeper now and building on it and expanding to really count what matters, which is what do we want all of our young people when they graduate? What do we want the portrait to be of what they look like? What the successes are, what we want to see in our young people. And so really organizing ourselves around that in the same very familiar areas of academics, wholeness, and leadership. And you'll see that throughout the budget, that focus. As I've said, this budget really builds on accomplishments. It really expands on work that we've done before, like the literacy work that we did, the literacy work on secondary literacy, the literacy coaching that we've done. You'll see we're expanding on that and learning from it and making it better. It expands on our On Track to Graduate work and work we've done. And we talked about our graduation rates. That work we're continuing to build on is making sure that we're really monitoring the success of our students when they come into our high schools and increasing the likelihood that they're going to get through successfully. The re-engagement work that Roger Shaw and his team does, that we're building on that work too, to make sure that if we haven't been successful at reaching them, that we're going to bring them back into our school and make them successful. A lot of the credit recovery work that we did in summer and to increase the number of graduates that we have. So all that work continues because it made a big difference for young people. And then the last piece on this next slide is about community feedback. We did 4 meetings with more than 200 participants. We surveyed and shared via the website and social media and newsletters those surveys. We did a POSIT poll sent out directly to families via cell phones to get a variety of ways to get feedback from our families. And I think what you see in these values or the priority areas identified through that engagement process at the bottom is a lot of synergy with our community in terms of what they want to see. Those things you'll see in our budget because those are things that we've been working on. So I think it's kind of reinforcement that we're working on the right things. We're focusing on the right things. We're focusing on things that matter for young people and things that our families want to see.
Now a bit back to some of the numbers, some of the key numbers that buttress these activities. FY25 revenue, all funds, when you take into consideration the 3 big categories that we use, which are general funds, special funds, and enterprise funds, we come in at $1.78 billion. And as you see by the pie chart, the biggest portion of that, the $1.436 billion, is our general funds. That's about 80% of the pie. 276 is the special revenue, about 15%, and enterprise fund at 5%. I think many know this, but I think it's worth repeating quickly here what these 3 different categories generally are. Let's start with the smallest one. The enterprise fund is the special separate fund we use for our food and nutrition. We get our revenues from the U.S. Department of Agriculture in a very specialized and rigorous way that they remunerate us for meals served. The remuneration level changes whether it's breakfast, lunch, snack, or supper. And we're very proud of our community eligibility program, Feeding All Children. And so you see that that's a significant number there based on USDA revenues. The next category is here, it's termed as special funds. just to keep people on their toes. It's sometimes called restricted funds, and it's sometimes called special revenue or special restricted funds. But these are, as the name suggests, funds that come in with a bit more qualifications and requirements. Your concentrations of poverty grant, your Title I, your Title II, and a whole range of other things that come in both from the state and the federal level. And general funds, it's the best way to think of that, frankly, is everything else, and overwhelmingly part of the blueprint for Maryland's future. When we mentioned earlier the lean year, in fact, that's both qualitative, but it's also quantitative in that the 10 years of the blueprint for Maryland's future, the formulas are such that they go in idiosyncratic directions. There are 12 categories of funding, and some of them go up, some of them are going to sunset, some of them are based on others. So it's not a straightforward approach, but this year will be the smallest incremental year-on-year increase, as we said. To give you a bit more on that, if you take a look at our, we're either up 2.2% if you look at general fund to general fund 24 to 25. And that's why you'll hear some of us talk about a couple of percent. If you look at blueprint to blueprint, which contains both general funds and some restricted funds, it's 2.8%. So at times, if you hear a finance person say a couple of percent, it's not because we haven't done the math. It's because it depends if whether we're talking only about general funds or if we're talking about what we sometimes call blueprint to blueprint. But however you slice it, it's between 2 and 3% change, hence our terminology for a relatively lean year, but one that we think keeps us in good position. This slide here cuts out the general funds, and one point we wanted to make here, and you look at the funded enrollment. I think commissioners all know, and many members of the public know, that the single biggest determinant of a school's district's funding is the number of children that it serves. And from there, of course, it's a matter of whether the child is multilingual, receiving a child with disabilities or other criteria. At the same time, the funded enrollment is not always the actual enrollment. There are exclusions that can happen for reasons having to do with attendance, the reasons having to do with immunizations. So there's a funded enrollment number and an actual enrollment number. And here's the point that I wanted to make on this slide. So while you see the funded enrollment numbers are of course correct, and the FY24 one is slightly higher than the FY25 one, I really want to mention that as far as actual enrollment goes, the 70,925 is the actual. Sometimes they're the same. The funded enrollment and the actual enrollment. We had 1,286 more children, actual students, for the FY25 count than for the commensurate FY24 count. Now, we know that 1 year does not a trend make, but this is an important milestone for us in that our actual children count went from 69,639, which is a bit confusingly not the funded enrollment number, but the actual enrollment number. So it's very meaningful. It's actual children without the exclusions. And that number went up 1.85%. And that's worth pointing out because it's the first time and it's a wonderful, in my view, it's a positive metric, and we're keeping our eye on it. And it's 1,286 more children for the FY25 count than the FY24 count. Here you see a side-by-side, which we finance people like to do, a year-to-year side-by-side. The budget book will have these, you can be sure. And it's another way of showing two things, or what we hope we're showing two things. One is the blueprint categories themselves. These are the blueprint funding categories. And you'll see they're in order of size, the biggest single one being the foundation amount, and then second being compensatory education funding for children, families living in poverty, and the third biggest being the concentrations of poverty grant. So you can see there that overall, in a blueprint to blueprint comparison, we went from just under 1.5 billion to 1.542, a change of 42 million and change, which is in the 2.8% that I mentioned. We keep our eye on these, and our modeling was correct. When Dr. Santelises encouraged us frequently to plan for FY25 because of the end of ESSER, the other big portion of that was modeling how much money we would have from the blueprint, and we're very happy to say we came in extremely close to what the actual funds were. The next slide is one that we do every year. Commissioners will recognize it. It's our way of making sure that as we budget for the next year, we compare it to previous years. And I think the statistic that we are most driven by is the amount of money in our general fund that is either in schools or budgeted on behalf of schools. And that number is 87%. It's the big purple area plus the orange area, 73%, but 14%. And that's kind of where the action is. The action is with the schools, and that number has been 87 or 88% for the last several years, which we think is about right, but we don't come at it thinking what the right number is. We maximize the amount of spending that's at the schools or budgeted for schools' behalf from Central. And so these numbers look very much consistent with what we've looked at. This next slide, because we've gotten lots of questions, we think it's quite relevant. This pie is an exploded pie chart of the orange slice from the previous one, the school support budgeted. Again, we see no particular outliers or any anomalies, I should say, in this. This is the pie of money that is spent on behalf of schools, but here at central office. And some of these categories are self-explanatory, some a little less so. Transportation is one of the self-explanatory ones, and we're experiencing significant increases in transportation costs. And partly when we mention the lean year, we don't want to belabor it, but people costs and transportation costs and utility costs are not in the 2.2 or 2.8% increases, so we're managing that. But transportation in particular, especially with our hybrid force of some of our vehicles are in-house and some of our transportation needs are met with contracts. Those contracts are of certain periods of time, and when they come up for renewal, you'll see we are seeing that they go up rather considerably. Utilities is another big chunk, kind of self-explanatory. We also are seeing higher than 2 and 3% increases in utilities, but you have to pay it, and you have to pay it on behalf of the schools. One that isn't terribly self-explanatory, the COO non-admin, we really probably should change that to mechanical services and repairs, because that's what it is. And the CEO contracts, think nursing contract, aides, and related services. All of these are required and necessary activities in one way or another that make a lot more sense to be budgeted and handled centrally on behalf of schools. And that's some of the key numbers. Now we're going to transition back to, again, what is one of the main themes of FY25, which is how we have navigated the transition from historically high federal funding as a result of the COVID pandemic and how we're factoring that in for our FY25. Dr. Hoffman?
Thank you. So navigating the ESSER transition is something we started from day one when the pandemic started in 2020. As the state, as the federal government gave us actually over 29 grants to date, we were always looking, what are our most critical needs right now, but also how do we leverage this money for a once in a lifetime opportunity to make a difference for our students? So really using these funds in the early days, it was what we had to do to really respond to the pandemic. Everything from health and safety to making sure all of our students had devices, COVID testing, and those pieces, once we moved out of the pandemic, we already started sunsetting certain activities. Like our COVID testing program sunsetted over a year ago. So that money that we'd invested is done. And when Chief Doherty talked about the cliff, that part isn't part of our cliff because we already ended it. But then also, as we looked at all of the countless programs that we did across our organization, looking at what really worked. what made an impact. And some of the work that city schools did, even under our title grants, looking at progress monitoring, looking at data, has helped us as we approached our ESSER cliff. Not wanting to keep something just because it sounded good, but really looking, did it make an impact? Did our families, did our students get a benefit from what we were doing? And then as we were looking at what we were keeping, how we were strategically looking at all of our funds. So not just saying ESSER went away, find space in the general fund. No, we looked at title, we looked at concentrations of poverty. Concentrations of poverty is that one restricted pot that's growing. So how do we leverage that to keep some of those things we want to keep? Summer programming, where tutoring fits, middle school athletics, how those pieces that are really essential to our students, we don't lose because this money goes away. Next slide. So as we're winding things down, city schools did get 29 grants, almost $800 million in this COVID response money. To date, we have sunsetted 23 grants. They have ended, and we have spent 99.7%. That's over $312 million we have already spent to address the pandemic and meet the needs of our students. All of that money is audited extensively in-house by the state, and I think we have definitely shown how we can make an impact with a lot of money very quickly. And we are definitely on track to fully spend all the money we have left. I know looking at this slide, people might go, oh, 156 million, that's a lot of money still left over. One of the pieces that is actually a plus going into fiscal 25 is the federal government is affording something called extended liquidation. So we are able to leverage a portion, about 60 million of that 156 that's left 59. Right now. Yeah, 60 million.
59.
Oh, sorry, 159. Yeah, I had to take my glasses off to see this.
So you couldn't see it.
Nope. So about 60 million of that number is actually going to be supporting programming in fiscal 25 during school year 24-25 under extended liquidation. What that means is if we have our purchase orders in place before the grant ends, we're allowed to have the service continue all through next year. So the COVID money isn't extended, but there is a loophole the federal government is providing that is going to enable us to ensure all the licenses we've been using can stay on ESSER funds for one more year. Things like our summer programming this summer, the tutoring next school year. And so a number of different pieces. So as we were leveraging the ESSER off-ramp, this gave us a little bit more time in this lean year that our ESSER funds could keep some of those things going without, and so that in fiscal 26, we can have different choices and have more money to possibly figure out what those are. So then from the ESSER side, next slide, please. We do talk about concentrations of poverty. Usually in a public school system, you think of the largest pot of money being Title I. In city schools, that is not the case. Title I is only about $71 million. Now with the Kerwin funding phasing in, concentrations of poverty next year is up to $135 million. It's going to continue increasing for the next couple of years. But city schools has taken a very strategic approach to these dollars ever since they were released. You may have seen that the state released guidance just a couple months ago. All of our spending is directly in line with that guidance, even before the state put out the guidance, because we leveraged the legislation as our benchmark for what we should do with these funds. What you can see here on the slide are some of those big buckets where these dollars are invested. The first two, the community school coordinator at every Baltimore City public school, is a requirement of the concentrations of poverty funding. In fiscal 25, every Baltimore City public school is eligible for concentrations of poverty. So every Baltimore City public school will have that full-time community school coordinator, either as a district hired staff person or through a lead agency partner. In addition, with concentrations of poverty, every one of our schools, we have to work to expand the services and our school health suites. So working to expand the registered nurses that are in our schools, and we're going to be looking how we're adding Baltimore City hired registered nurses, and as well as using vendor partners and not just relying on the health department to help us meet this requirement. So those first two bullets are a must with this money. Once we've addressed those musts, the rest of the money can support wraparound services for the needs of our students. A number of these pieces you've heard talked about already in lots of presentations, and you'll hear more tonight. These are really leveraged in what we have seen our community and stakeholders value and want to keep to meet the needs of our students, many of which who live in poverty. Also within this space, it was the ability to maintain things we started under ESSER. So when you look at some of the school-based wholeness positions, a lot of those are currently funded on ESSER. They're able to move into concentrations of poverty next year. Other pieces like our central infrastructure around tutoring or summer school that have been on ESSER will now be shifting into concentrations of poverty. So how we leverage those pieces while putting the majority of these dollars in our schools, but keeping back a small portion to help make sure we have the infrastructure that we can implement all of these different programs.
Okay, we're gonna have a little position shift now, so. Yeah, this is the dancing part. Oh, Joy.
Get the good part. So I get the good part, because now I get to talk about some of these key investments in the area of academics. So as I think we shared earlier, this is anchored in our blueprint, our continual commitment to think about academics, wholeness, and leadership. So when we think about academics and starting with the foundation in math and literacy, you can see our investments. And again, these aren't inclusive of all the investments. We're just highlighting some really important ones. City Schools' commitment to high quality instructional materials is one of the things to be so proud of here in City Schools. We are national leaders in this space of ensuring that our teachers and students are using and experiencing high quality materials in our core areas. So that investment will continue. You can see where we're showing those investments in math. Certainly, we're excited about our new pre-K work that we are digging into there. When we think about our work to support access to algebra, our commitment to expand so that more of our middle grade students can have access to early success in algebra, our continued space, as we've talked about already, in personalized learning, high dosage tutoring. And I think the other piece I want to just really call out here is our investments in our people. So the coaching and educator investments that are represented in the investment in over nearly 150 math and literacy coaches. And again, that allows our teachers to have support real-time, in-time, in really close proximity to their teaching with somebody who's in their school every day. And again, I also want to lift up the work in our pre-K special education. We talked earlier with the board about our pre-K KRA results. This is because we're making important investments early on for our youngest learners so that they will be on track for kindergarten success and beyond. So this investment here just signals our commitment to ensuring that we have enough teachers and enough paraeducators to support our youngest learners. If we go to the next slide, we know that the foundation is there for literacy and mathematics, but we need to think about a full, well-rounded education for our students. And so you see here our investments in science, fine arts, library, again, all of the things that our students deserve and how we need to make sure that they have top quality resources, access to science labs, high quality materials in their library. So we're excited that again, through the strategic use of our funds, we are making sure these things continue for our students. We also have to think about the full continuum of our learners. And so this is again where we think about the investment we made very early on when we reopened our school buildings and had students come back. We wanted to make sure we could look at them and have a plan for them for each individual. And that investment in our student learning plans continues as part of our way to always think about who is this student, what are their dreams, aspirations, their strengths, their areas for growth and improvement. So our continued work on student learning plans is something we're very proud of. You can see here our work with the Judy Centers. We lead the state with the number of sites that we have, 14 sites, and the continued investment we'll make there. We think about our advanced placement and gifted and advanced learning programs. Again, you can see the dollars that attach there. We've talked a little bit tonight about the special students that we think about for our multilingual learning and the needs that they have. So again, this is all, again, signaled in our key investments. And then we've talked a lot already tonight about summer programming, extended learning, and a huge shout out to Lori Lynn Sutton and the great work she has done in service of just growing a incredible program for our young people to have wonderful opportunities in the summer and after and before school.
And then finally, for our secondary success and innovation, we talked about this earlier this evening when we think about our support to ensure students are on track to graduate. You can see what we do to focus on our high school success and then what we need to think about for that college and career readiness. And again, you can see, again, those important pieces, whether it's our 9th grade work, whether it's how we're preparing students with our high school career coaching. But these investments, again, are part of that broader strategy of how we're ensuring our young people are ready for their next step beyond city schools.
Okay, so now we are looking at some of our wholeness items. And first, want to highlight the Re-Engagement Center, which provides wraparound supports to students in student outreach, progress monitoring, evening school opportunities, as well as Department of Juvenile Services transition and mentoring. The student outreach is inclusive in capturing and servicing students who are in need as they are entering our school system from alternate placements, as well as students who are at risk of academic disengagement. Additionally, the program monitors the aspects of monitoring aspects is inclusive of attendance, behavioral support if that is needed, support structures in the form of home visits, in-person mentoring, as well as career building and post-secondary opportunities for our students. Also want to highlight, we have put an enormous amount of energy and time in our athletics, increasing the offerings in middle school and also in high school. So shout out to ED Goodwin and her team for that big lift. This year, we've increased participation in all offered sports, inclusive of cross country, unified flag football, volleyball, indoor bocce and basketball, track as well. And then also for making sure that students, because we may not necessarily have a team, but there is interest. We have one student currently who is golfing and has been very successful. And then we also have one field hockey team. So again, we are looking at expanded options based off of the interests of our students, and that also contributes to our engagement and attendance strategy that we lifted earlier. Our student transition ambassador, we have been piloting this year, so we are so happy that next year we can have 3 positions for that. What that is for the public, it is a person who serves as a liaison between schools. They do the legwork of going to the school with the parents and the students to make sure that they have schedules, that they know who their teachers are, that they have a person who they are connected to. And so far with our pilot, we have been getting rave reviews. Shout out to Mike McCormick behind me. There you go. So we are really excited that we'll be able to expand this for next year as well. And more importantly, that it will give our parents and our students a feeling of being respected when they show up to schools. Everything is set up for them. It will be smooth for them as well as the administrator. So we want to make sure that they have a good experience, and customer service is something that we are working on to make sure that we're able to do that. Next slide. This is a collaboration, again, with our academics office, our mental health providers. We do invest to make sure that each school has a 1.0 social worker, and there is 1 psychologist in a school per 850 students. We have a crisis intervention team that, again, is working schools office and also in academics, where we have our mental health providers that are able to support in times of crisis and just in need. And then also we have our expanded health options. So city schools took control of unstaffed health suites and issued an RFP for partnerships with local universities and nursing schools. So this partnership offers opportunities, CTE opportunities, mentoring and internships in healthcare for students, which creates a pipeline of nurses by exposing nursing students to school health as a career option. Additionally, having an RN in every school improves health suite services, especially for students with complex medical needs. We have partnerships with Johns Hopkins, Morgan State University and Coppin State University. And this has been very beneficial to bring in resources to enhance the model for school health suites that we are trying to provide. And I don't want to leave off before we go to the next slide, though. Can you go back one? And just making sure that to note that we are investing in our meals program for breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner. Important.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about professional learning under, again, this frame of leadership. So we think a lot about the ways in which we support the educators who are closest to our students. And so there are multiple investments we make in this area. The first one really is highlighting our systemic PD that happens throughout the school year. And again, this is, again, a dedicated space for supporting the full range of teachers, new, novice, and veteran staff. We also are hosting summer learning institutes. Again, we started this using money through our ESSER funds. We will be able to do that again this summer with ESSER funds, but we know that this is something we want to continue because it's an opportunity for educators to have more time, to have a multi-day learning experience, to dig into a topic more deeply as they're thinking about their particular area of expertise. We know we want to have intentional work for our IEP chairs. So again, this earmarking funds to really support their needs, given the role they play in schools to support our students with disabilities. And then we're also bound by MSDE and how we support our early career teachers through both our induction and mentoring experiences. So you can see here the investments we make in that area. And then I'm going to toss over to Chief Nielsen.
This budget also includes a significant investment in growing our future leaders and emphasizing youth voice. We've been hearing every meeting from our ASCBC representative, which have been growing a network of student government associations across our district, and the continuation of the Be More Me programming and conference at schools across the city. And we're also working to develop a pipeline of staff. We want to help staff grow their careers at city schools. So we're making an investment in helping our pre-K paras get the credentials that they need under the blueprint requirements that are being implemented over the next few years, up to $1.3 million to help them earn degrees and their child development associate credentials. There's also investment in helping other paras and other undegreed staff earn a degree so that they can move into a teacher preparation program. We have robust supports to help our teachers become national board certified. This includes a dedicated staff member who's working with teachers who have national board certification to mentor teachers who are going through the selection process. It's a very rigorous process that requires coaching and support from peers. And we have that. We've also very strategically tried to make sure that we're reaching out to underrepresented groups of teachers with national board certification and underrepresented schools. And then finally, this budget also includes increased teacher salaries that we recently negotiated with the BTU. So the new contract has higher salaries that are averaging of 6.5% for teachers, with some teachers and some new teachers who will be joining the district in the coming year, seeing a bigger increase in that compared to their salaries year over year. And we want to make sure that our teacher salaries remain competitive in our market as we're implementing the Kirwan requirements and continue to make this a great place to teach.
We're almost there. We want to just touch on a few more things. We know it's a lot, but there's a lot of activities that we're proud of, and we don't want to give any important area short shrift. One other note is facilities. Your slide and all the slides indicate that they're not meant to be exhaustive, and that's certainly the case in facilities. One way that we've managed so well to spend appropriately and within the time levels, the ESSER funds, is we've done quite a lot of work on facilities. The one example in your slide talks about 22 restrooms at a cost of $31 million. Dr. Lynette Washington and her indefatigable team have been working from the starter's pistol with ESSER for just those things. And I know it's not exhaustive, but I can't resist saying a few other examples. HVAC upgrades, library refreshes, science labs, robotics materials and supplies, furniture, playground refreshes and upgrades, a new enrollment system, the initial cost, that one's not Lynette, but it's in the list. Wi-Fi upgrades to schools, hotspots. This is all giving you a sense of our making sure that not $1 goes unspent when our district has these needs. And it's been a team effort that we're quite proud of. But again, the budget book will have more details. And on the final slide, we go back to what is the rest of the home stretch, April 9th being tonight, April 11th being when you will all have the budget book. And then the meat of the home stretch comes between April 12th and May 8th, where people dig into both this presentation, discussions related to this presentation, and the budget book, and then all aimed at a May 15th vote. So with that, we'll end our initial presentation. We're delighted to take questions both tonight and in writing over the next 5 weeks. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for the presentation from the full team. I've opened the floor for questions. And are you, Commissioner Reed, then Commissioner Sally?
Okay, hopefully I won't keep you guys here too long. I mean, but I like to interject. I guess one thing, you guys have done a really good job over the last few years with the school-based budgeting. I mean, I've seen improvement, and this is happening now and quickly because of that problem. And the system in the state uses a homogeneous approach. You guys go granular and you go to the schools, which is great. The other thing is ESSER. Very few institutions in this state have, one, created ESSER programs that made sense, and two, spent the money well. And the school system's probably done the best job in the state in doing that. I mean, I give you guys a hard time a lot of the time, but you guys have done great in those two things. Thirdly, this is my question. The bridge from ESSER in normal budgeting to Kerwin. Do you guys have any concerns with slippage in terms of the state saying, we promised you X, we're not going to deliver? So if that happens, what kind of pain will we go through in terms of the system?
Commissioner Reed, on the potential slippage, you mean from the
Not getting your money.
the blueprint money?
Yeah.
Thank you for that question. And I would say staff always sees an asterisk when we think of the out years for any kind of funding, whether it's federal or state. Oftentimes they will have literally in their appropriations language, subject to future appropriations. So we're very aware of that possibility. I think we're optimistic about the 10-year blueprint for Maryland's future in general. And we feel like, and we certainly are modeling, and our other LEAs are modeling, that FY25 is the leanest of the 10 years. That said, if we can thrive in FY25, which we think we can, we doubt there will be any lower increases, even if there are a few unforeseen events that occur because of the 2-ish% increase. It's hard to imagine it going much lower than that. We certainly are modeling that based on the 12 different formulas that it's going to go up considerably, but I think we're prepared if it were not to, because every year is a new reality with the funding, and we treat it that way.
I'm going to take a personal moment of privilege. Then I'll transition to you, Commissioner Sally, and then Commissioner Sadie. I just want to amplify the intentional efforts from the system of using the right budgets for the right things and maximizing our one-time dollars, knowing that we would come to a cliff, that they would end. I know that we elevated during this presentation that there is 25% left that's been accounted for, and we're spending that down in a really thoughtful way. To your point, Commissioner Reed, that is something that has not happened at large scale across the state, and we're now starting to see that. So I do want to thank the team for being very thoughtful in that way. But if you all could speak to in specificity how we've been able to do that on the front end and being intentional with our COVID relief dollars, our ESSER dollars, so that we can just amplify the work of how we've been able to maximize these one-time dollars.
I think with that answer, some of it is really the planning we did and the planning we've done all along. Every month, I've checked in with most of the chiefs. I know, seriously. I've been having check-ins with the chiefs on an ongoing basis. Cabinet is constantly asking for updates. And when we have those, it is also a shared accountability moment. It's, this was approved to do it. Are we following through? Then are we following through? What results are we seeing? And I think through that process, we've been very iterative from the beginning. It wasn't have a plan, put it on a shelf and hope. It's we have kept reviewing that plan monthly, weekly, quarterly. Honestly, I review the numbers almost every day at this current standpoint. I could tell you exactly what's left for that money. And my friends here all know they get the emails from me very frequently reminding of timelines. And I think the timelines is the other piece that's been very critical for city school success. We didn't wait. We set timelines, we set goalposts, we set dates and gates, and we held to them. So if someone didn't use their money by a date, we pulled it back and used it for something else. So we didn't just leave it sit out there and, oh no, I'll do it next week. No, I'll do it next month. No, that was the deadline. And now it's gone and we're going to put it to something else. And Dr. Santelises always has the backup plan. And we always come with, here's the 8 things if there's money left. And that's what we've done.
I also just want to add that I think Kim has been an expert at knowing which pot of money does what, to the Vice Chair's question. So when we have priorities that we want to fund, if we can't do it on this pot of money, then we're able to figure out which one we can, and being able to move the money between the different, it's an all funds approach that including finance, where we are just looking at all the resources available and trying to figure out which one or ones we can do it with. And if it's ones, which one of those expires first, so we can use it first, so that we can then save money for the other things. So I think it's been really a strategic use of funds in the right investments, and to make sure that we're utilizing it all.
Thank you. Commissioner Salmon?
All right, thank you so much. I'm really excited to see the budget this year and see all the good work that's gone into that. As we've talked about here in this discussion and other forums around the board's goals, so the 4 things that we've really looked at as kind of priorities for the system, so graduation, literacy, numeracy, and student wholeness. One of the look fors I have kind of going into this cycle is looking at the alignment, which is really, really clear, like in all the things that are presented here, but also looking to ensure that the first priority for resource allocation is alignment to those goals. So that's one of my look fors this year. My secondary comment, as a secondary look for kind of proceeding into this year, is looking for where we can have greater conversations with city school staff around how we can see how the strategies that are being deployed by the system help us accelerate outcomes towards those goals. So those are some conversations I'm looking forward to engaging with all of you in this coming year. I'm more comments than
I was going to ask.
Sometimes like as you talk,
capture that.
sometimes as you're talking, it comes out like what you're really going for. But if there's questions on that, I can answer or provide some additional things. But thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Salmon. Commissioner Slater-Harrington?
I think that most of my thinking can be taken offline. I just wanted to confirm for public record that when you say that we have
that we have that loophole and we can spend 59 to 60 million in this, the next school year, that all of that funding has to be encumbered. So spoken for, allocated. We're not thinking of new things. This is either confirm or, paying for things that we already have in the pipeline or have planned and procured.
Yeah, so Commissioner Slater Harrington, 100%. And that also goes to the timelines. So the ESSER funding closes on September 30th, but we're not waiting till September 30th. We've set a deadline of July 15th. Everything has to be in the computer. Everything that we're doing on that extended liquidation is already approved today. So no one is trying to figure out what's that last minute. So having that July 15th deadline, so it also affords plenty of time for procurement, the procurement approval process. We told people, if you don't already have a board letter, don't put it on the list. There is a time. So we were very, very intentional what we were committing, and also ensuring that our purchase orders, those quotes, are very conservative. Because if we put something on ESSER for this extended liquidation, and I don't spend 100% of that money, any of those pennies go back. There's no more time to repurpose it. So we're also being very strategic. Maybe we end something in April instead of May. And then if we haven't used it all, we actually have runway to finish it and make sure we use all of our money. Or we might be doing the first 3 quarters on ESSER funds, but maybe the 4th quarter we're going to do on Title I. So looking how we braid our funds together, that we don't risk returning money because we've taken the opportunity to have more time. But we're being very conservative. And again, my friends all know the 1,000 questions I'm asking when something is being proposed for that money. Okay, like, you convince me. And because I know I have a certain person sitting next to you to answer to if we don't spend every of that penny.
Absolutely. My flag for future conversation really was around just like we're, seeing a diminishment in the number of teachers, and hiring is difficult. The same is true for nurses. And I know our city's health department, it's hard for them to be competitive in order to hire nurses. And so just balancing some of the contracts we've been approving with that reality, as much for my understanding, but also the public's understanding about how we're looking at this landscape and managing. And sometimes when you get into contractual work, how then it is difficult to convert those positions back to FTEs, and the realities of that. So it's late. I don't want to get into that now, but in the future, somehow having this conversation, both for my own illumination, but to bring the public along again on how we're approaching that challenge.
Great. Can I, as a quick point, just to piggyback on something Commissioner Slater Harrington was asking. So it may be helpful to talk about, like, when we're talking about the obligation. I think what Commissioner Slater Harrington is talking about, ensuring that all the funds are obligated by a certain period, and that the loophole is really a flexibility it's allotted by the U.S. Department of Education to liquidate down to the remaining funds within a period of time. So I think the notion of casting it as a flexibility rather than a loophole gives the system the flexibility that we need to ensure that all of our funds are spent, that we're able to think through like how those funds are spent in accordance to plans and XYZ. So it's a better way to look at it.
Commissioner Coy and then Commissioner King-Atabey.
Yes, related to the school office, wholeness, climate, and culture, a couple of questions or thoughts, things that I'd like to see over the next 5 weeks. And the majority of these relate to a question of scale. Thinking about these expenditures, it would be incredibly helpful to me, and I imagine maybe to other commissioners as well, to understand that of these investments, is this 5% of what is desirable? Is this 100% of what is desirable? So when we talk about the student transfer ambassadors, appreciate what that represents and what that is 3 positions fully servicing the need that we have as a district, or is that just sort of 5% as a start? This is the initial, early stage, and we need to continue to invest in that. Same thing for some of the either the mentoring or the counseling, thinking about each one of these different items and having a sense for, especially in the wholeness and with climate and culture, to what degree is this meeting what we understand the need to be? It certainly is something with the blueprint for Maryland's future, the funding coming in through that concentration of poverty funds are also meant to be focusing in on. But as we've highlighted with buildings and with other items, decades of underfunding in these areas are not suddenly going to mean that some amount of money is going to fix all of our buildings. Some amount of money is not going to provide all the supports that are needed for our students. And so having a sense for to what degree do we feel like this is meeting the need is my question. And so I would specifically like to see that called out for some of the wholeness items, not all of them that are listed in here, but certainly selecting a number of them.
And Commissioner Coy, if you have time, not tonight, but you can certainly forward, if there are particular areas within the wholeness wellness space that you would like that response for, that would be helpful, because it's a large question. And so, if you've got areas like, for example, like the transfer ambassadors, just for an example, that might make it a little bit easier for staff to prioritize which ones to go deeper with.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Did that conclude your remarks, Commissioner? Thank you. Commissioner Kenyatta.
Fabulous work. Okay. But I'm looking forward here. I'm looking forward. And I want to know as far as program procurement, and as we're looking at this budget and we're looking at program procurement, and are we looking really to actually narrow down? I mean, you said this is, not getting much we used to getting. So, we're narrowing down, but as going forward, program procurement, are we looking at, do we need this spend, or do we, or is this spend over or competitive? Are we looking at those monies now that we're moving into this budget? How are we spending it as far as effectiveness, as far as comparative, structure? Because a lot of times, and to be able to telegraph or to tell people that is how this works competitively. And so anything that you're purchasing, bringing in, how are we narrowing that down and messaging that we are, getting the best bang out of the public's buck? Sorry, I'm not that sophisticated.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta. And am I correct in assuming that series of questions that you just posed, we can answer along with some of the ones that you emailed earlier?
That's the, emails are going to come. But,
Yes, I think,
but that's an overall, it's a broad and general question, sort of like, Commissioner Coy's question. Very
Thank you.
broad. And looking down the line, are we focusing on that? Because, we never know what tomorrow may bring.
Understood. Thank you. We will proceed with that. And we have gotten some of your other questions, and we're already started working on them, actually.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, peace. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. Are there any additional questions?
Madam Vice Chair, I would just like to, Commissioner Lawson, I just wanted to hear if you had any thoughts around this process so far.
Not right now. If I do have any questions, I'll be sure to email, but after my first budget briefing, I'm pretty comfortable, until I see the budget book. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lawson. Thank you so much to the team. We look forward to working with you all over the next 5 weeks and 1 day before the next or the vote on the 24-25 budget. Notice of upcoming meetings. There will be an Operations Committee meeting virtually on Tuesday, April 16th, 2024, that will begin at 10:30 a.m. There will also be a Policy Committee meeting virtually on Tuesday, April 16th at 4:00 p.m. The Safety and Wholeness Committee meeting will be virtual as well on Thursday, April 18th at 4:00 p.m. The next Executive Board meeting will be at the Reach Partnership School at 2555 Harford Road, 21218. It will begin for all board members at 3:30 p.m. Our public meeting will also take place. It will be a hybrid meeting at the Reach Partnership on Tuesday, April 23rd, beginning at 5:30 p.m.
Before you, motion to adjourn, Vice Chair, today happens to be Commissioner Kenyatta Bay's 34th wedding anniversary. And he has chosen to do God's work. And so happy anniversary to you and to your wife, absolutely. And we wish you many, many more years of bliss and love, and all the good things.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
One other item, if I just may.
Is a motion, Commissioner Cord. Do we have a second?
Second, McFadden.
All in favor? Commissioner Coy?
I just wanted to speak to one thing that was referenced earlier, but is just to further note and acknowledge that today is Eid al-Fitr, the ending or breaking of the Holy Fast of Ramadan, and it's marked with gratitude and charity to support members of the community. Two things I know we value and celebrate across all of our students, staff, and families here in Baltimore City Schools. And to all who celebrate, sending warm wishes your way for blissful Eid al-Fitr. May this day bring you closer to your loved ones and strengthen your bonds. Eid Mubarak.
Thank you for your remarks, Commissioner Coy, and thank you for your earlier remarks, Madam CEO. The motion is still on the floor. Commissioner Coy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed? Commissioner Slater Harrington? Sorry, Commissioner Sally.
Yes.
Commissioner Chair McFadden.
Yes.
With a unanimous vote from all commissioners that are still present.
Did you vote, Vice Chair?
Oh, yeah, me.
Oh.
Y'all, it's time to go home. Let's go home. Thank you.